Third part. Chapter 041 Ruthless? No, Langmi. Zhao Yun took the dragon gallbladder silver spear subconsciously, with a confused look on his face. You gave it to me? You gave it to me. The next moment, Zhao Yun's face flushed with excitement. In fact, from the moment he saw the dragon gallbladder silver spear, he was drooling with greed. After all, he had been practicing martial arts and spears since he was a child. His love for good spears was almost engraved in his bones. So when he heard that his father gave the dragon gallbladder silver spear to the immortal, he still felt a little disappointed. But only a little. After all, the storage treasure box and the artifact armor that could protect the master given to him by the immortal before, these are much more valuable than the dragon gallbladder silver spear. He can still distinguish between immortal objects and mortal objects. But he didn't expect. In the blink of an eye, the immortal actually gave him this valuable dragon gallbladder silver spear. Zhao Yun was speechless for a while. The touch in his heart could no longer be described in words. But he knew. He has decided to follow the gods in this life. No matter who comes, it will be useless. Even if Yun Yi makes him go through fire and water in the next second, he will do it without hesitation. Yun Yi patted Zhao Yun on the shoulder. How about this dragon gallbladder silver spear? I heard that you are good at spearmanship. You can show me when you have time. Zhao Yun held the dragon gallbladder silver spear and bowed. If the gods want to see it, Yun is willing to accompany you at any time. He turned his hand to put away the dragon gallbladder silver spear, and everyone's eyes turned to Zhao Yun, as if asking, why are there so many armors and weapons here? Weapons are fine. As the court's control over the local areas gradually weakened. Not to mention the major families. Even some local tyrants would secretly forge some weapons and hide them for emergency use. The key is armor. Armor is not only very expensive to make, but also can only be made by craftsmen under the supervision of the court. If it is not allowed, it is private casting. The lightest punishment is exile for thousands of miles, and the worst is beheading. Moreover, the imperial court not only prohibits private manufacture of armor. Even buying and selling is a serious crime punishable by beheading. So there are so many armors, the worst are iron armor, and there are even fish-scale black armor that only generals are qualified to wear. This is probably robbed from the transport team of the Han Imperial Guards, right? Zhao Yun seemed to be unable to bear everyone's gaze, and finally explained. In fact, these armors and weapons are all accidental gains. This matter has to start from the bandits who came down the mountain to rob our Zhejiazhuang 7 years ago. Then, Zhao Yun explained the whole story one by one. It turned out that one night 7 years ago, Zhejiazhuang was suddenly attacked by a group of bandits from the foothills of Taihang Mountain. Because it was late at night, everyone was basically asleep. So it was not prepared in time. The bandits climbed over the rammed earth wall and broke into Zhejiazhuang. The key is that this group of bandits was so vicious that they did not even spare the unarmed old, young, women and children. It can be said that Zhejiazhuang was in danger at that time. It was almost exterminated. Fortunately, the elders of the previous generation of Zhejiazhuang, that is, Zhao Yun's father and several uncles, stood up at the critical moment and quickly gathered all the forces of Zhejiazhuang. The old, young, women and children went to the battlefield together. Fight against the bandits together. Finally, with the efforts of all the villagers in Zhejiazhuang, the bandits were repelled at the cost of nearly half of the casualties. Almost all the older generation died in this battle. Zhao Chen, whose broken limbs were healed by milk before. He also lost his legs in this battle against the bandits. In addition, Zhao Yun's wife, that is, Zhao Yun's mother, also died in this battle. Of course, these armors and weapons were not captured in this battle. If the bandits really had these armors and weapons, the small Zhejiazhuang would not be able to resist them. Don't underestimate the power of armor. In the ancient times when cold weapons were rampant, Armor was a magical weapon for infantry and cavalry. Especially iron armor. Wearing it can basically ignore the damage of swords and knives. So any slightly trained soldier wearing iron armor can fight 1 against 5. And they are 5 soldiers of the same level. If it is against ordinary people, it is no problem to fight 1 against 10. However, armor and weapons do have a lot to do with this group of bandits. After repelling the bandits, Zhao Yun took over the position of the head of the Zhao family. But he has never been a person who swallows his anger. He believes in the Gongyang school of Confucianism, which is the mainstream of the Han dynasty. Advocate tooth for tooth, eye for eye. 9 generations of hatred can still be avenged. However, revenge also requires strategy, and it is absolutely not a matter of hitting a rock with an egg. So, Zhao Yun secretly began to investigate this group of bandits. After finding out everything, he paid a lot of money to buy a bandit as an insider. While most of the bandits were out robbing, he quietly took dozens of Zhejiazhuang people to sneak into their lair. Of course, a strong attack would not work. Facing this group of vicious criminals, a strong attack would mean death. He still had to outsmart them. After sneaking in, Zhao Yun knew that the bandits would celebrate after their victory. So he mixed a large amount of poison he bought into the wine and food that the bandits celebrated with in advance. Halfway through the celebration, the poison took effect. The bandits who ate more died directly from poisoning, and those who ate less also fell to the ground due to the poison. Only a very small number of bandits who were on guard and patrol did not eat the wine and food. But they were also beaten by the righteous group of young and strong people in Zhejiazhuang. Before they could even raise a wave, they were quickly killed. The great revenge was finally avenged. Naturally, they would not let go of the bandits' legacy easily. So Zhao Yun led people to search for a while. Strive to dig 3 feet deep. Take away all the valuable items in the bandits' lair. Then, they found boxes of armor and weapons that were enough to kill all 9 clans of the Zhao family. P.S. Please give me flowers, evaluation tickets, and monthly tickets. Reading during the Mid-Autumn Festival. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP points. Recharge now, activity time, September 15th to September 17th. Chapter 042 Full of Martial Virtue. After seeing these armors and weapons, Zhao Yun and others started a heated discussion. Should we take the armors and weapons away? However, most people did not support taking them away at that time. Because these armors and weapons were obviously not what this group of bandits could own. If the Zhao family took them away, they might be killed. And the quantity was huge. If they were discovered by the court during transportation, it would be a capital crime. But we really should not take them away. Everyone felt very distressed. So many armors and weapons. Among them was the Dragon Gallbladder bright silver spear made of meteorite iron from outer space. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was priceless. As long as you have it in your hands, it will be a guarantee for a comeback in the future. Even if you don't use it yourself, you can get some protection by giving it to the aristocratic family. In the end, Zhao Yun stood up and made the decision. Take it away. Whether it was armor or weapons, they were all taken away and taken back. And they were taken back quietly at night. However, in order to prevent the forces that lost these things from retaliating, everyone must keep it strictly confidential. And these armors and weapons must be sealed up immediately after they are taken back. Unless the world is in turmoil or the Zhao family is at stake, they must not be taken out. Then, these armors and weapons have been hidden here for 7 years. If Yun Yi hadn't traveled through time, it is estimated that the Yellow Turban Rebellion will break out in full swing, and the control of the Han central government over the local areas will be unsustainable. They can see the light of day again. During this period, in order to prevent the armor and weapons from being damaged, Zhao Yun will also take people to maintain the armor and weapons from time to time. This is why the armor and weapons are still as bright and clean as new after being hidden for 7 years. Wait until the story is finished. Yun Yi couldn't help but take a breath. Good guy. He really didn't realize that this group of honest farmers in Zhejiazhuang were so full of martial virtues. Not only did they repel the looting bandits, they also dared to kill into the bandits' lair. Although they took it by drugging. But they were really brave. If they are discovered, there is really nowhere to run. Really, awesome. This is not a ruthless person, this is a group of wolves. 2 more points than a ruthless person. But actually think about it carefully. Now is the Han Dynasty. All countries are destroyed by weakness, only the Han Dynasty is destroyed by strength. Gongsun Zan, who was beaten to a pulp by Cao Cao during the Three Kingdoms period. He turned around and beat the Xianbei to death. Moreover, the mainstream doctrine of society at this time was still the Confucian Gongyang school, which shouted, 9 generations of hatred can still be avenged, and those who offend the mighty Han will be punished even if they are far away. It is not the Chengzhu Neo-Confucianism after the Song dynasty that preserves the principles of heaven and eliminates human desires. The Confucian scholars of this era are not weak and corrupt Confucian scholars. They all have to be proficient in the 6 arts of a gentleman. Rites, music, archery, charioteering, calligraphy and mathematics. Maybe he can't beat a general in a one-on-one fight, but he is definitely much better than ordinary people. Of course, the one who surprised Yun Yi the most was Zhaoan. When he first met Zhaoan, he thought he was elegant and gentle. He is a gentleman who likes to win people over with virtue. But now it seems he does win people over with virtue, but it is martial virtue. He even doubts. Under Zhaoan's wide robe, he has muscles comparable to Schwarzenegger. Of course, this is a bit exaggerated. But after he recalled some details, he found that Zhaoan's martial arts value should not be low. For example, he thought the dragon gallbladder bright silver spear was heavy before. Zhaoan lifted it with one hand. Damn, they are all a bunch of old silver coins. If Steve hadn't traveled through time with the MC rules, Yun Yi estimated that he would not even survive 2 chapters. Chapter 1, Crossing the Primeval Forest. Chapter 2, Encountering a Wolf Pack, died. Fortunately, there is a golden finger. Yun Yi let out a long sigh and asked casually. So you didn't know the source of these armors and weapons in the end? Zhaoan shook his head and recalled. Not really, I found out the source of these armors and weapons 2 months later. At that time, this matter was still a hot topic. These armors and weapons all belonged to Zhang Yi, the governor of Bingzhou. The dragon gallbladder silver spear was also forged from the meteorite iron he accidentally obtained. In the past, Eizhou was in turmoil and bandits were everywhere. Zhang Yi was worried about the safety of his children in the clan, so he sent someone to transport a batch of armors and weapons back. But because this batch of armors and weapons came from an illegal source, so Zhang Yi didn't dare to transport them openly, and could only transport them secretly in the name of traveling merchants. Originally, everything along the way had been arranged. But no one expected that passing by when we were in Taihang Mountain, we unexpectedly encountered a group of vicious bandits. Without saying a word, they killed people and robbed all the goods. Zhaoan paused, scratched his head and continued, then, when this group of bandits returned to the mountain to celebrate that night, we poisoned them all. The armor and weapons also fell into our hands. But just over a month after we got our revenge, Zhang Yi, the governor of Bingzhou, learned that the armor and weapons were robbed and was furious. Quickly, more than 10,000 soldiers and horses were assembled in the name of suppressing bandits, and all the mountaintops in Taihang Mountains were cleared out. Even a dozen small bandits were not spared. But it was thanks to that cleanup that the area around Taihang Mountain remained stable for several years. Chapter 043 New Name, Yajiao Gun. Hua, the time is right. In the first month of the 5th year of Zhongping, 188, Xiao Tuju rebelled and killed Xing Ji, the governor of Shihe. In March, Zhang Yi was killed again. And 3 years after Zhang Yi's death. That is, the 2nd year of Chuping, 191. Zhao Yun emerged and, with the recommendation of the various rebel armies in Changshan County, he led his people to join Gongsun Zan. Calculate the time. It should be after Zhang Yi's death that Zhao Yun took out these armors and weapons. Then Zhao Yun stood out from the various rebel armies with his superb martial arts and these armors and soldiers. He became the leader of the Changshan County rebel army. By the way, if Zhang Yi hadn't died, then could Zhao Yun still rise? It should still be possible, but it might take longer. After all, the ability is there. He is both civil and military, and unparalleled in loyalty and righteousness. These armors and soldiers only accelerated this process. Times make heroes. But heroes also firmly grasp the times. After a long sigh, Yuni looked at the people around him. Zhao Yun, Zhao Yu, and Zhao Yin no longer had the initial grief and indignation. Instead, they looked confused. The incident and the death of their mother had dealt a heavy blow to them. It was also after this that they devoted themselves to practicing martial arts, thinking of learning martial arts and going up the mountain to kill the bandits for revenge. Later, when they heard that the Taihang mountain bandits were all wiped out by the court, they still regretted that they could not kill their enemies with their own hands. But they never expected that the bandits were not wiped out by the court, but by their father and uncles. Zhao Yu bit her red lips lightly. I always thought that it was the court that wiped out the bandits who robbed Zhejiazhuang, but I didn't expect it to be you, Dad. Zhao Yun twisted his beard and said proudly, you don't think that your father is a coward? Killing my parents and my beloved wife is an irreconcilable hatred. It's not that I won't avenge it, but the time has not come yet. At this moment, Zhao Yun and the other two felt relieved. The shackles in his heart suddenly opened. Mother. So your revenge has been avenged by your father. The three people's eyes were moist, and tears flowed down their cheeks. After a long time, the three gradually regained their composure. Zhao Yun on the side bowed to Yuni and said, Master God, I'm sorry to make you laugh. Yuni shook his head. How is this a joke? The brave are angry and draw their swords to the stronger, and the cowardly are angry and draw their swords to the weaker. You dare to defeat the strong with the weak, which deserves my admiration. Put yourself in their shoes. He didn't think he could do better than Zhao Yun. It seems that we can't underestimate the ancients. The ancients just didn't have the developed productivity of modern times, which doesn't mean they were not as smart as modern people. Hearing that the gods praised him so much, Zhao Yun couldn't help but grin. Zhao Yun, who was standing aside, looked at the Longdan bright silver spear and suddenly said, Dad, since the Longdan bright silver spear belongs to Zhang Yi, the governor of Bingzhou, I'd better not use it for now, to prevent it from bringing disaster to our Zhejiazhuang. Zhao Yun nodded slightly. That's fine. There are so many good spears in the world. In fact, just change the name. Unless Zhang Yi sees it with his own eyes, how can he know that this is the Longdan bright silver spear he lost? Zhao Yun suddenly realized. Yes. Just change the name. He is of humble status and can't see Zhang Yi, and other people don't know Longdan bright silver spear. Is it a matter of words to decide whether it is Longdan bright silver spear? Zhao Yun nodded, turned around and clasped his fists to Yun Yi. Please ask the gods to give this spear a new name. Yuni looked at Zhao Yun with interest. He did not rush to give the spear a new name, but asked. In fact, with me here, it's okay even if it's called Longdan bright silver spear. Are you sure you want to change its name? Zhao Yun was stunned. Yes. With the gods here, what does Zhang Yi, the governor of Bingzhou, count for? But after careful consideration, he nodded firmly. Please give the gods a new name. I can't cause trouble to the gods for such a small matter. Yuni nodded slightly. Okay, then call it Yajiao spear. There is no match for the ends of the earth and the corners of the sea. The spear is unparalleled. I hope you can also have such a name for the spear in the future, unparalleled in the world. Yajiao spear was originally another name for Longdan bright silver spear in history. Now the name is just returned to Longdan bright silver spear. Zhao Yun nodded and clasped his fists. Thank you, gods, for the name. Yun will live up to your expectations. From now on, it will be my Yajiao spear. Then, several people walked out of the abandoned cellar warehouse. The armor and weapons were still hidden deep in the stone chamber. The world was not in chaos yet. Zhao Yun did not intend to rebel. Of course, it was impossible to take out all the armor and weapons. The dragon gallbladder bright silver spear, oh no, now called the Yujiao spear, was carried out by Zhao Yun. Zhao Yun carried the Yujiao spear all the way. The smile on his face never faded. Feeling the sunshine outside, Yun-Yi was a little impatient to test the effect of the fishing rod. So he put a workbench directly on the spot. Like the workbench, this is an important tool in MC. Generally, as long as there is space in the backpack, one will be carried with him. He then put the wooden stick and silk thread into the workbench. The next moment, a brand new fishing rod was synthesized. Zhao Yun, Zhao Yun and others were shocked by Yun-Yi's action. Is the immortal always so jumpy? Master God, what is this? Yun-Yi took out the fishing rod and held it in his hand, smiling and saying. This is a fishing rod, this is a good thing. Fishing rod? What a rare thing. The world has been suffering from drought for several years, and the once wide Hutuo River has become a trickle. Fishing? You need fish to fish. Master God, there may be no fish near our Zhejiazhuang. Zhao Yun reminded in a low voice. Chapter 044 Dark Opening. Yun-Yi certainly knew there were no fish here. Just like the situation in Hutuo River. Jump into the river, the deepest part can only cover the ankle. You can tell whether there are fish or not by just looking at it. But this is a fishing rod in MC. Do you need fish to fish in MC? Isn't it enough to just have water? He laughed. It doesn't matter, just watch. He immediately took out a shovel from his backpack and shoveled the ground under his feet. Then he took out a bucket. Put an infinite water block in the dug pit. Holding the fishing rod. Throwing it. The white fish float was thrown out instantly and fell into the small puddle. Yun-Yi sat down cross-legged without any hurry. Are you starting to fish now? There are no fish here either. Isn't it the key to put bait when fishing? Is the immortal learning to fish like Jiang Taigong? Take the bait if you want. But they didn't question it. Since the gods told them to watch, there must be a deep meaning. They just need to watch silently. Zhao Yun and Zhao Yun took the lead and sat down next to Yun-Yi. Zhao Yu and Zhao Yan hesitated for a moment and sat down. Just like that, in the dilapidated yard. 5 people sat cross-legged in front of a small puddle of 1 square meter. 1 person was fishing, and 4 people were watching. But they were all silent. If this was seen by people in the future, they would probably think they were doing performance art. After waiting for about 10 seconds, a series of bubbles suddenly appeared in the originally calm puddle. The bubbles gradually floated from the edge of the puddle to the fish float. Here comes the fish. Yun-Yi stared at the fish float with his eyes, and when the bubbles just floated to the bottom of the fish float, the motionless fish float actually rose and fell. Now, Yun-Yi was quick-eyed and quick-handed, and quickly raised the fishing rod. Swish! A pair of leather boots flew out of the puddle. A black start? As expected, fishermen can catch anything except fish. This is also true in the game. Yun-Yi picked up the pair of leather boots and shook his head. As expected, they were leather boots with some lack of durability and no enchantment. In layman's terms, they were rotten shoes. After all, there is no such thing as broken shoes in MC, so they can only be represented by insufficient durability. The 4 people watching on the side had their eyes wide open and swallowed saliva. Zhao Yan's head was almost in the puddle. He had to find out something from the puddle. No. Where did these boots come from? I didn't see the immortal put it in. Does anyone want this boot? Yun-Yi asked everyone with some disdain. He already had iron boots. Naturally, he didn't need these leather boots without enchantment and half the durability. Of course, the most important thing is that these leather boots were caught by fishing. The first time I tried to fish with an MC fishing rod in real life, I caught a rotten shoe. This is really embarrassing. Has becoming Steve and traveling through the late Eastern Han Dynasty consumed all my luck? Yunyi couldn't help thinking. When he heard that the boots were free, Zhao An's eyes lit up. My Lord God, can you give these boots to me? No problem, take them. Yunyi threw the leather boots over directly. He wanted to quickly get rid of this pair of witnesses of his bad luck. Zhao An took the leather boots. He looked at the size. He felt like he couldn't wear them. At this time, Zhao Yun and Zhao Yan, who had experience wearing iron armor, came over. Dad, this is a magic weapon that can automatically adapt to the size of your feet. Really? With doubts, Zhao An tried to put the leather boots on his feet. The next moment, the leather boots actually began to adjust their size automatically. He put the leather boots on his feet very smoothly. It fits very well, the size is just right. And it feels very comfortable. It's completely different from the straw sandals I wore before. It's soft and bouncy. It's like stepping on cow dung. Zhao An was happy to show off the leather boots on his feet to everyone. He looked like an old child. This was the first time Zhao Yun saw his father like this. He shook his head helplessly. Then, he came to Yunyi and asked, My lord, do these leather boots have the same protective effect as the iron armor we wore before? Yunyi nodded naturally. Of course, it does, but the effect is a little worse, only half of the iron boots. All equipment in MC has armor value. Equipment of different materials and different positions have different armor values. Among them, the armor value of iron boots without enchantment is 1 grid. And the armor value of leather boots without enchantment is only half a grid. Of course, in the armor value given by the equipment. It's not that the better the material, the higher the armor value. The armor value given by diamond and nether alloy armor is indeed high. But the gold armor is an exception. The armor value given by the gold armor is not as good as the iron armor. Of course, from the physical properties. Gold is soft. It is normal that the gold armor is not as good as the iron armor. But Yunyi prefers to call it the price of beauty. After all, walking on the road in a golden armor. It is really handsome and eye-catching. Being strong or not is only temporary, but being handsome or not is for a lifetime. Chapter 045 Pufferfish. Knowing that leather boots also have the effect of protecting the master with divine weapons, Zhao An couldn't hold back. He wanted to test it. Yunner, how about you stab me? Cough cough cough. Yunyi coughed when he heard the tiger and wolf words. No. Others Fang Tian Hua Ji was used to stab his adoptive father, Zhao Yun. Are you going to change your Yajiao spear to stab your real father from now on? My Lord God, what's wrong? Yunyi waved his hand. It's okay, you continue. Zhao Yun nodded, took a deep breath, and said to Zhao An. Dad, then I'm here? Come on. Zhao An's eyes were firm. Zhao Yun held the Yajiao spear in his hand and stabbed forward lightly. He didn't dare to use too much force. Although he believed that the divine weapon given by the gods could protect the master, it was his real father after all. Puff! The protective sound of leather armor is different from that of iron armor. But you can also wear only one piece to protect the whole body. After being stabbed, Zhao An only felt a strong force coming. It hurts. But after taking a look at the stabbed belly, there was only a shallow blood mark. You know. With the sharpness of the Yajiao spear, even if Zhao Yun just stabbed it lightly, he could still pierce Zhao An. Now there is only a blood mark. It is obviously all the credit of the artifact leather boots. Zhao An squatted down like an old child and touched the pair of leather boots on his feet. His face was even more smiling. Hee, these boots are really beautiful. Yunyi stood aside and saw this scene. It seems that if the destructive force exceeds the upper limit of the equipment's protection, it will also be hurt. The destructive power of the Yajiao spear exceeds the protective ability of the leather boots. That's why there was a shallow blood mark on Zhao An's belly. Of course, this is a very light skin injury. It is estimated that he can recover most of it after a night's rest. So Yunyi did not take out milk to treat him. In addition, Yunyi also noticed the change in the durability of the leather boots. It actually dropped significantly. Originally, the leather boots only had half of their durability left after being caught. Now, after being lightly poked, it lost another eighth of half. In other words, the leather boots could only withstand 8 strong stabs from Zhao Yun just now. If the force was stronger, it would probably explode after 3 or 4 more attacks. Yunyi kindly reminded. The ability of these leather boots to protect the owner is limited. They will disappear after resisting a few more attacks. Zhao Yun nodded, quickly gathered his emotions, and said with a bow, "Thank you for the reminder, Lord God." But he was not sad about it. Instead, he was still happy. Because he knew, under normal circumstances, he would not need the ability of the artifact boots to protect the owner. Once he used it, it would be a matter of life and death. At this time, being able to resist a few attacks would definitely save his life. Yunyi was a little unhappy when he caught the leather boots for the first time. He planned to catch them again. One can't have such bad luck. He didn't want to drop treasure. After all, this small puddle is not an open water area according to the MC rules. The probability of catching treasure is almost zero. He just wanted to catch a fish. Cod? Salmon? Tropical fish? Anyway, as long as it's not a pufferfish, it's fine. Yunyi picked up the fishing rod and swung it at the small puddle. The float drew a beautiful arc in the air. Then it fell into the small puddle. Seeing Yunyi start fishing again, Zhao Yun and others also gathered around, silent. Although the baiting time in MC is random, but there is also a range. It is about 5 seconds to 45 seconds. If there is a fishing rod with bait enchantment, the baiting time can be shortened. But it is also limited. Theoretically, even if there is a bait 3 enchantment, it will take up to 30 seconds to catch a fish. Maybe it's a good turn of luck. The float had only been down for 10 seconds when a series of bubbles came from a distance. Wait until it floated under the float. The float sank. Yunyi pulled again with quick eyes and hands. The powerful force directly flew the thing he caught up. Fish. A glimmer of light passed by, and Yunyi was sure it was a fish. Wait for the fish to fly to the shore and take a look. Oh, a pufferfish that was puffed up and round. Fishing rod, you are really XXXX. Yunyi took a deep breath, feeling a little helpless. His luck seemed a little bad. No, it should be the water problem. Because this small puddle is not an open water area in the judgment of MC rules. So the probability of catching a good fish is not high. Well, no problem. Yunyi skillfully put the blame on the small puddle. It seems that he has to go back to the pond in the villa yard to fish. That pond is big and deep enough. It is definitely considered an open water area in the judgment of MC rules. Maybe you can catch a treasure bow with infinite fire arrows, strength, and durability. As for the pufferfish in front of you, it is definitely impossible to eat it. The pufferfish in MC is extremely poisonous. Eating a bite will cause 3 negative buffs, namely nausea level 2, hunger level 3, and poisoning level 4. Throw it there, it will make you upset. So, this is the only way. This is also the unified way for all fishermen to deal with pufferfish after catching it. Pick up the pufferfish and wipe it on the boots. Then kick it in the air. Go. Kick the pufferfish dozens of meters away. Chapter 046 Clean and Hygienic, Tap Water? My Lord God, is that a pufferfish? Zhao Yun asked as he looked at the pufferfish flying away. Since the drought a few years ago, he has seen fewer and fewer fish. As for pufferfish, he saw it once 5 or 6 years ago. Yunyi nodded. Looking at Zhao Yun's curious eyes, he suddenly remembered the racial characteristics of the Chinese nation. You can eat anything. Pufferfish is of course no exception. Theoretically, as long as the internal organs, blood, skin, gills and other places where toxins gather are removed, you can eat it. But the pufferfish in MC is different. In reality, this thing belongs to a regular creature. No matter how clean it is processed, it must be toxic. Of course, it is not impossible to eat it. You just have to take milk as soon as possible to clear the negative state. Otherwise, with the toxicity of pufferfish in MC, the player Steve's vision can be distorted, and the blood volume can be quickly reduced. Yun-Yi seriously doubts that ordinary people in reality can't hold on until they can drink milk. They will die directly. So, Yun-Yi said quickly. Want to eat? That's not possible. This pufferfish is different from the pufferfish you know. It's extremely poisonous. No matter how you treat it, it's useless. And if you eat a bite, you can't drink milk within 1 minute and you'll see it in the next life. Hiss. Zhao En and others widened their eyes and swallowed saliva. Is it so poisonous? 1 minute. Unless the milk is at hand, you will die. Zhao Yan, who had just run to the pufferfish and was about to pick it up, froze. Stopped where he was. Yun-Yi smiled and said, "It's okay to touch it a few times, as long as you don't eat it. Pick up the pufferfish and give it to me." Zhao Yan breathed a sigh of relief. He picked up the pufferfish and handed it to Yun-Yi. Yun-Yi put the pufferfish away and put it in his backpack. This pufferfish is too poisonous, so it's better to keep it yourself. Although I can't eat it. It's not clean to wipe my boots. But if you want to make aqua scuba potion in the future, you will still need pufferfish. Put away the fishing rod. Yun-Yi plans to return to his luxurious villa to fish. However, he did not fill up the small puddle on the ground, but said to Zhao En beside him, "I will keep this puddle. You don't have to go to Hutuo River to get water in the village in the future. Just come here to get it. Don't worry, although this puddle is small, it is also an infinite water source. As long as you don't use anything to fill it up completely, it can generate water continuously. And the infinite water blocks in MC have another benefit in reality. Clean and hygienic." That's right. People in the late Eastern Han Dynasty did not have tap water, and they basically used natural water. Natural water looks clean at first glance. But it has not been treated. There are actually many invisible germs and parasites in it. And ordinary people in this era did not boil water, they all drank raw water directly. After all, boiling water requires firewood or coal. These are actually money. Unless they are from a wealthy family. Ordinary people can't even get enough food, how can they be so refined as to boil water to drink? Modern flower growers boil water to drink on a large scale. In fact, it was not until after the founding of the country. The water generated by the MC Infinite Water Block is almost absolutely clean pure water. There are no germs or parasites in it. So it's okay even if you drink it directly. Zhao En nodded and bowed. I will follow the teachings of the Immortal Master. Yun-Yi nodded slightly. Suddenly, he remembered something and added. By the way, if you have the conditions, you can actually try to get tap water. Tap water? Zhao En muttered softly, and then asked, Master God, what is tap water? Yun-Yi thought for a while and said. In fact, it is to make a hollow tube with bamboo or copper and iron, and then connect one end of the hollow tube to the water source and the other end to thousands of households. The hollow tube at the end of thousands of households can be equipped with a valve. You can close the valve when you don't need water. When you need water, open the valve, and the water will flow through the hollow tube to thousands of households. Zhao En's eyes lit up. Is this tap water? It is indeed self-contained. If this kind of hollow tube can really be installed, it will be very convenient for everyone in Zhejiazhuang to get water in the future. You can get water without leaving home. But he also quickly thought of the disadvantages of tap water. The manufacturing process is difficult and consumes a lot of resources. After all, it is necessary to ensure that the tap water can be used normally. The hollow pipe must be able to withstand the continuous impact of water pressure. The valve must also be tightly closed and cannot leak. These are all problems. At the current level of Zhejiazhuang, none of them can be solved. Zhao Yun told the problem truthfully. Yunyi nodded slightly. Didn't I say it? If there are conditions, build it. If there are no conditions, put it aside and build it later. And in fact, you can make some simpler tap water first. For example, no valves are used, and the hollow pipes are connected with long straight ones. This yard is just at the westernmost end of Zhejiazhuang. You can put the other end of the hollow pipe at the easternmost end, so that the villagers at the easternmost end don't have to run so far to get water. Although there is no valve to turn the water on and off, you can make the hollow pipe thinner and the water flow smaller, and then arrange for each household to get water in order. Try to avoid waste as much as possible. Of course, waste is actually okay. Because it is an unlimited water source. It will never run dry. But waste is always bad, so Yunyi didn't deliberately promote this. Chapter 047 Extravagant Performance. After hearing this, Zhao Yun immediately slammed the table and shouted in admiration. He wished he could build a hollow tube right now and then replicate the tap water that Yunyi mentioned. Yunyi saw his inner excitement. Okay, let's separate now, I have to go back to my luxurious villa. The catches I caught the first 2 times were too rubbish. He planned to go back to the villa's pond and fish well. He would not call it a day until he caught a treasure today. Zhao Yun nodded and bowed to Yunyi again. My lord, I'll leave first. Zhao Yun left. But Zhao Yun, Zhao Yu and Zhao Yan stood there motionless. You should also go and do your own things. Yunyi said casually. However, they shook their heads and said almost in unison. My lord, we're fine. Yes, to put it bluntly, they are just a group of children. The oldest Zhao Yun is only 18 years old. In the future, he would probably have just become a clear and stupid college student. Zhao Yu and Zhao Yan were even younger. One was 16 years old, and the other was only 13 years old. At their ages, it was not too much to call Yunyi uncle. I'm going back to fish. If you don't feel bored, you can go with me. As soon as the voice fell, the eyes of the 3 people were shining. Not boring at all. How could it be boring to watch the immortals fishing? That was fishing in the void. It was simply amazing. They wanted to see more. And they were also very curious about what the immortals could catch. Yunyi nodded slightly. Okay, let's go together. After that, he took Zhao Yun, Zhao Yu and Zhao Yan to his luxurious villa. Arrived at the door. Before Yunyi went up to open the door, Zhao Yun took the lead to show off. Mr. Immortal, let me open the door. Obviously, Zhao Yun wanted to be the conspicuous treasure. Show off in front of his sister and brother. After all, only Zhao Yun and Zhao Yun know how to open the door of his luxurious villa. Yunyi nodded in agreement. Zhao Yun was so excited that he walked to the big iron door made of fine steel. Dong dong dong. He knocked 3 times in a row, then he shouted loudly. Shao AI, open the door. Hiss. Why do I feel a little ashamed? Looking at Zhao Yun's slightly exaggerated performance, Yunyi suddenly felt embarrassed to the point of digging his toes into the ground. He suddenly wondered if he had made a mistake in setting the voice control password. But looking at the expressions of the 3 people, he found that he seemed to be the only one who felt embarrassed. Zhao Yun not only did not feel embarrassed. Instead, he held his head high. As if being able to open the door of the villa of the immortal master was something to be proud of. Zhao Yu and Zhao Yan did not feel embarrassed either. Instead, they looked at Zhao Yun with envy. So this is a cognitive gap? After all, they did not know Shao AI, they just thought it was amazing to be able to open the door by talking. And Yunyi knew the meaning of the password he set. So when they used exaggerated actions, that's why he felt embarrassed. Yunyi shook his head. Forget it, why think so much? Just get used to it. And it's quite interesting. It's probably a bit like Guan Yu riding a Red Hare brand bicycle when he traveled thousands of miles alone. The big iron gate staggered. Yun Yi was the first to push the door open, and Zhao Yun and others followed. After entering the door, Zhao Yun showed Zhao Yu and Zhao Yan a wave of voice-controlled door-closing operations as before. They were immediately fascinated by stars. Yun Yi coughed lightly and asked Zhao Yun to be more restrained. Zhao Yun immediately understood. He quickly pulled his younger brother and sister to follow Yun Yi. The three of them immediately became his loyal brothers. They came to the pavilion next to the pond. In the center of the pavilion was a stone table formed by a piece of raw stone and a stone step stacked together. Next to the stone table were 4 stone benches in the shape of stone steps. Yun Yi chose a stone bench closest to the pond and sat down. Then he took out his fishing rod. The other 3 people each chose a stone bench and sat down. But their eyes had already drifted to Yun Yi. Yun Yi strengthened his muscles and bones, and then silently recited in his heart. Enchanted book. Enchanted bow. Enchanted fishing rod. Then, he took a deep breath. Throw the fish float out with force. The huge force made the fish float fly across the sky and land in the pond. The determination method of open water in MC is not complicated. The depth must be greater than or equal to 5 meters, the length must be greater than or equal to 5 meters, and the width must be greater than or equal to 1 meter. And there must be no obstructions in the space of 5 meters * 1 meter * 5 meters. In addition, there must be at least 5 grids of air above the open water. And there must be no obstructions in the middle. Only in this way can it be determined as open water. The probability of fishing treasure will also be greatly increased. The pond dug by Yun Yi naturally met the standards of open water. Even far beyond. The fish float stood quietly on the water. It floated and sank gently. Yun Yi waited quietly for more than 20 seconds. But still no bubbles appeared. Finally, after waiting for about 40 seconds, a series of bubbles quickly floated from the edge of the pond toward the fish float. It's time to catch a fish. Chapter 048 Caught an enchanted book. Unlike in reality, when a fish bites the hook, it will pull for a while. Fishing in MC is a matter of a moment. There is a certain probability that the fish will escape if you lift the rod too early or too late. Therefore, you must concentrate when fishing with an MC fishing rod. You can't relax for a moment. Fortunately, the single fishing time of an MC fishing rod is not long. The longest is only a few dozen seconds. If it is like in reality, the axis moves for half an hour or an hour. Then he probably can only say goodbye to fishing. The bubble took a zigzag route in the water. Finally, it floated under the float. The float suddenly began to sink under the influence of some invisible force. It completely sank into the water in an instant. Right now, Yun Yi lifted the fishing rod with force, and the fishing rod was instantly lifted up. A pulling force was transmitted to his hand along the fishing rod. The force was not strong. After all, in the rules of MC, Steve's power is unlimited. How can a mere small fish stop Steve from pulling? The next moment, a half-meter-long light blue fish flew out of the pond. It landed on the ground. Raw fish, not bad. Raw fish is actually the most common fish in MC. But after catching worn leather boots and pufferfish, Yun Yi was already very satisfied. Raw fish is not very useful. Eating it raw can only replenish 1 bar of satiety. It can be heated in a furnace or campfire to become cooked fish. Cooked fish can increase satiety by 2.5 bars. Yun Yi took out the furnace from his backpack and put it aside. Then put the raw fish and coal in. The burning progress slowly advanced. 10 seconds later, a fragrant cooked fish was baked. Take the cooked fish out of the furnace. Yun Yi weighed it. It's not heavy, about 10 pounds. With the addition of almost perfect light and shadow in reality, it looks particularly tempting. Then he took out the workbench and placed it next to the furnace. Throw in 3 wooden boards. He combined 4 bowls and took them out. The bowl looked very small in the game, but it was as big as a basin in reality. Yuni put the cooked fish into the bowl and said, "If you want to eat it, do it yourself." Zhao Yun and his companions looked at the cooked fish in the bowl and couldn't help but swallowing their saliva. Meat! What a delicious meat! Since the drought, the grain output of Zhejiazhuang has been getting worse every year. There is not enough food for people, let alone raising livestock. So if they want to eat meat, they can only rely on Zhao Yun to go hunting in Taihang Mountain to try their luck. Of course, Zhao Yun also worked hard. Almost every time he went into the mountains, he got something. Unfortunately, as the drought continued, more and more people around could not survive and went into the mountains to look for food. In front of the fierce 2-legged beasts, the wild beasts were still not good enough. As more and more people went hunting, the number of wild beasts in Taihang Mountain was also decreasing. The remaining wild beasts were also becoming more and more shrewd. Zhao Yun's harvest from going into the mountains was getting worse and worse. In recent times, they even only brought back a few pheasants. A few pheasants for one person would be great. But if they were distributed to most of the villagers in Zhejiazhuang, each person would only have enough to smell the meat. Zhao Yun resisted the urge to eat meat and asked, "Master God, don't you want to eat it?" Yuni looked at their eager looks and smiled and shook his head. "It's okay, you eat first, I'll catch a few more." After getting the answer, they couldn't help it anymore. They quickly divided the cooked fish into 3 parts. They each put it in the bowl in front of them. Zhao Yun ate the fish head, Zhao Yu ate the fish body, and Zhao Yan ate the fish tail. The 3 of them ate so happily that their eyes narrowed. They enjoyed it very much. In a short while, they had eaten all the cooked fish weighing 10 kilograms. Only a few fish bones and fish bones that could not be eaten were left. The fish in MC are actually similar to the fish in reality. The only difference. Perhaps after the fish in MC is eaten, it does not enter the stomach and slowly digest, but instantly turns into a warm current and merges into the body. So full. The 3 people sat on the stone bench, touching their little stomachs, feeling comfortable. The food in MC does not make the stomach bloated. There is no such thing as overeating. But after eating enough, you will feel full. Of course, it is okay to force yourself to continue eating. It will not affect anything. Yuni glanced at the 3 people who were feasting, shook his head, and then cast the rod again. After the float landed on the water, he began to wait quietly. It didn't take long. Bubbles appeared again. A series of small bubbles quickly approached the float from far to near. When the bubbles moved under the float and dragged the float to sink rapidly, Yun-Yi instantly tightened his muscles. Pull the rod. Up. The fishing rod was raised high. Suddenly, something flashing with flowing light flew out of the water. Hey, it's not a fish. It seems to be an enchanted object. Snap. The enchanted object that was caught fell heavily at Yun-Yi's feet. Take a closer look. This is a book. A shining enchanted book. Damn, enchanted book. Woohoo, take off. Yun-Yi's eyes widened, and the excitement on his face was beyond words. Chapter 049 Protection 4 and Thorn 3. If you don't open the creative mode. Even in MC, enchanted books are actually difficult to obtain. After all, the prerequisite for synthesizing enchanted books is to have books and enchanting tables. And synthesizing books requires paper and leather. Synthesizing enchanting tables requires books, obsidian and diamonds. None of these things are easy to obtain. Especially diamonds. If you are unlucky, you may not be able to dig them up even if you work hard underground for a few days. So, in the early and middle stages of the game, fishing is one of the best ways to get enchanted books. The only drawback is that it depends on luck. After all, the chance of catching treasure with a fishing rod without the sea's favor enchantment is already very low. And there are more than just enchanted books in the treasure. There are also saddles, enchanted bows, enchanted fishing rods, name tags, nautilus shells, etc. So it seems. Yun Yi's luck is definitely not bad to catch an enchanted book on the 4th fishing trip. So, is the first 3 times of fishing bad enough to count as a waste? Thinking of this, Yun Yi's mood suddenly improved. With excitement, he went forward and picked up the enchantment book on the ground. Take a look. Protection 4, Thorns 3. Yun Yi was stunned. He rubbed his eyes to make sure he was not mistaken. 2 highest level enchantment effects, both of which are effective enchantments for breastplates. Cool. My lord god, what is this? Zhao Yun, who was full and satisfied, asked curiously. Yun Yi's mouth almost stretched to the sky. A good thing, a very good thing. He stood up decisively and ran all the way to the villa. Don't move here, I'll be back later. Entered the villa and went straight to the box. Opened the box. Take out 3 iron blocks from it. There are still some iron ingots in the backpack, but iron blocks are only in the box. There is also a workbench on the 1st floor of the villa. He opened the workbench directly here. Use 3 iron blocks and 4 iron ingots to make an anvil. Then take off the breastplate he was wearing. Put it in the anvil. Then put in the enchantment book. After spending a few experience points, all the enchantments on the enchantment book were transferred to the breastplate. The iron breastplate that originally emitted silver light instantly turned into an enchanted iron breastplate with flowing light. Put on the enchanted iron breastplate. Yun Yi is very proud now. The 7.5 armor points brought by the iron suit, 1 protection 4, and 1 thorn 3 that can counterattack. There are also 17 blood points brought by the upgrade. He really can't think of anyone who can hurt him in the late Eastern Han Dynasty. You know, the enchantments in MC are generally percentage effects. For example, protection. Level 1 can reduce 20% of damage, and level 2 can reduce 40% of damage. Protection 4 means reducing 80% of damage. The same is true for thorns. It's just that thorns return damage by percentage. Regardless of whether it is melee or ranged, it can return. What is the concept? This means, if someone sneak attacks him with a crossbow from a distance, he may be counterattacked and killed first, and Yun Yi is not dead yet. After all, a crossbow that can cause 10 points of damage. With the attenuation of protection 4, there are only 2 points of damage left. This is without considering the armor reduction. If you wear armor, the damage will be even lower. But the calculation of the anti-damage is not based on the last 2 points of damage. Instead, it is based on the initial 10 points. The attacker does not have an enchanted suit and MC armor suit. There is no way to attenuate the damage. You can only bear all the anti-damage damage completely. Even if the anti-damage is not all damage, but a certain proportion of the damage. It is not something that ordinary people in the real world can bear. The key is that Yun Yi can still eat or take potions to replenish blood when injured. Ordinary people can only wait for recovery slowly. Walk out of the villa. Yun Yi walked towards the pavilion with a step that does not recognize his relatives. Zhao Yun and others also noticed the enchanted breastplate on him. My lord god, what is this? So handsome. After being praised like this, Yun Yi also grinned. This is the good thing I just told you about. Come on, take out your Yajiao gun and stab me. Huh? What kind of strange request is this? Could it be that I did something wrong and offended the gods? Zhao Yun stood there respectfully. He didn't dare to say a word. Yun Yi coughed lightly and explained, the book I just caught is an enchanted book that sealed a part of my magic power. I have now transferred all the magic power sealed in the book to the breastplate. I asked you to stab me just to test the effect of the breastplate with special abilities. Zhao Yun suddenly realized. Hit the gods by order. Thinking about it, I was a little excited. He shook his head hurriedly. Throw away all these bad thoughts. My Lord God, I'm sorry. Yuni nodded, opened his arms, and completely exposed his chest. He said, by the way, this breastplate has the ability to resist injury. The attacker will receive a certain percentage of damage return, so be careful when you stab. Hearing Yun Yi's reminder, Zhao Yun nodded hurriedly. He was obviously much lighter. The spear thrust straight forward. The sharp tip of the Yajiao spear pierced the enchanted iron breastplate almost instantly. Ding! The sound of metal collision sounded. Yun Yi felt a very weak force transmitted to his chest. It was so weak that the heart representing the blood volume in the sight only dropped by 1/5 of a grid. Even if the 80% damage reduction of protection 4 is not counted, it will only lose 1 grid of blood. Did you not use enough force? However, when he looked at Zhao Yun, he saw Zhao Yun retreat several steps and then spit out blood. No, the anti-injury power is so strong. Chapter 050 Damage Calculation. Seeing Zhao Yun injured, his brother and sister shouted, "Second brother." Then they quickly jumped out and supported Zhao Yun on the left and right. Zhao Yun took a deep breath, "I'm fine." Then he got rid of the two and stood up again. Yun Yi didn't expect the anti-injury effect to be so good. But he couldn't bear to see Zhao Yun get injured for his experiment. So he hurried forward with milk. Zhao Yun opened his mouth and swallowed a big mouthful of milk. His face, which had just turned pale due to vomiting blood, finally recovered a little. Of course, milk can only clear negative states. It can't restore blood volume. To restore blood volume, ordinary people can either slowly raise it or eat food in MC. As long as the satiety is full, the energy in MC food will quickly start to repair the loss of blood volume of ordinary people. Or you can use healing potions or healing arrows. But these two things are not available to Yun Yi now. You have to wait until the nether hell is opened. You can only synthesize it after getting the hell wart. Fortunately, Zhao Yun had eaten 1/3 of the MC food cooked fish before. After the injury, the energy contained in the cooked fish quickly spread throughout the body and began to help him make up for the loss of blood. However, it was also because he only ate 1/3 of it. So the blood and qi only recovered slightly, and the effect of replenishing blood disappeared. "How is it, are you better now?" Yun Yi asked. Zhao Yun nodded, "Thank you for your concern, Lord God, I am much better now." Yun Yi nodded slightly, "Tell me about your feelings just now." Zhao Yun frowned slightly and slowly recalled his feelings just now. "The moment I stabbed your chest armor, Lord God, I felt an invisible force give me a heavy punch. And this heavy punch did not act on the outside of the body, but on the inside. It's like it went through the body and hit the internal organs directly." Yun Yi blinked a few times, thinking. The manifestation of the anti-injury in the game is the direct loss of blood. Of course, there is no such thing as blood in reality. It directly acts on the internal organs in the body to achieve the effect of losing blood. It seems quite reasonable. Of course, the MC rules appearing in reality are unreasonable in themselves. So this rationality is only reasonable in accordance with the MC rules. However, what Yun Yi finds most incredible is the damage of the anti-injury. How can it be so strong? It shouldn't be. Although the protection 4 can reduce 80% of the damage. But after removing the reduction, it is only 1 grid of damage. In addition, the Thorn 3 is not 100% anti-injury, it can only be 60%. The damage is even lower. Is 0.6 grids of damage already very high for ordinary people? Thinking about it. Suddenly, he looked at the armor value in his sight and reacted. Patting his head. "Oh, I forgot that the armor value in MC also has a percentage damage reduction effect. 1 grid of armor can reduce damage by up to 8%. A full set of iron armor can bring him 7.5 armor values. That is, 60% damage reduction. The key is that this can be superimposed with the enchantment effect. After receiving damage, the armor's damage reduction will be calculated first, and then the enchantment effect's damage reduction will be calculated. So let's calculate it. The original damage caused by Zhao Yun's stabbing was 2.5 grids. Then this damage is correct. The 3 thorns have a 60% counter damage, which is 1.5 grids. Steve only has 10 grids of health. Ordinary people will have less than Steve. 1.5 grids on an ordinary person, it is natural to spit blood. After figuring it out, Yun sighed for a while. After the creation in MC came to reality. The effect is really much better. The same is true for armor. Not only can it form a protective aura, but it can also resist damage with its own material. The damage after resistance can also be reduced. Calling it a divine weapon is not an exaggeration at all. Yun gently patted Zhao Yun's shoulder and told him, "Sit down and rest for a while, I'll catch a few more fish to replenish you." Zhao Yun immediately showed an expression of flattery, and nodded in response. "Thank you for your concern, Lord God." Yun sat back by the pond again. He cast 10 rods in a row. It is estimated that catching the enchanted book has used up all his luck. His luck after that was neither good nor bad. All he caught were fish. There were 5 raw fish, 3 raw salmon, 1 raw cod and the most useless pufferfish. After catching so many, Yun found that these fish were very standard. This is also the characteristic of MC. Raw fish and raw cod are slightly different in appearance. The length and weight are the same. 1/2 meter long and 10 kilograms. Salmon is longer and heavier. 1 meter long. It weighs 20 kilograms. Because it is bigger and heavier, cooked salmon replenishes more satiety than ordinary cooked fish and cooked cod. But only a little more. Cooked fish and cooked cod can replenish 2.5 grids of satiety. And cooked salmon can replenish 3 grids of satiety. Put all these fish into the furnace and start processing. After more than a minute, 5 cooked fish, 3 cooked salmon and 1 cooked cod were placed on the table. If it was in a game, then there might be no place to put these foods. But in reality, bowls can not only make mushroom soup, but also put fish. Just put 4 bowls together. Then put 3 fish in 1 layer. Stack 3 layers directly. Chapter 051 Water Source Dispute. At the same time, in the Xinghua village, which is in the same township as Zhejiazhuang. The reason for this name is that there are wild apricots growing all over the mountains and fields in and outside the village. Every year around Qingming festival, the apricot trees bloom, and the fragrance spreads 10 miles. It is also at this time that the villagers of Xinghua village will pick apricot flowers and use them to make wine. Therefore, Xinghua wine is quite famous in Changshan County. But since the drought began, the apricot trees that used to be lush in and outside Xinghua village have now become withered and decayed. It is the season for apricot flowers. There are only a few apricot flowers left on the branches. It is no longer the Xinghua village that was fragrant 10 miles away. June and July are the seasons for apricot trees to bear fruit. In previous years, the apricot trees were full of sweet and sour apricots, suitable for all ages. The apricots that cannot be eaten can also be used to make wine. Apricot wine is also a major feature of Xinghua village. It's just that this year's apricot trees have fewer flowers and fewer apricots. Not to mention using them to make wine. Even for the villagers in their own village, they are almost not enough. And Xinghua village is not like Zhejiazhuang, where all the people have the same surname and clan. There are 2 major surnames in Xinghua village. One surname is Xiahou, who is the descendant of Xiahou Ying, a founding hero of the Western Han dynasty. But the main line is located in Qiao County, Pei County, Shuzhou today. As a ruined branch, they can only go far away and come to Zhending County, Changshan County, Jizhou. The other surname is Chu, who is not a local in Zhending County. The old ancestor of the Xiahou family and the old ancestor of the Chu family hit it off at first sight. They swore an oath of blood and became brothers of different surnames. Then the 2 hit it off. They brought their wives and children to this place full of apricot trees to form Xinghua village. More than 100 years have passed. The Xiahou family and the Chu family have become more and more prosperous, and both have grown into large families of hundreds of people. Inside the Chu family ancestral hall, Chu Ji, the head of the Chu family, held 3 incense sticks, bowed deeply 3 times, and then slowly inserted the incense into the copper incense burner. Ancestor, the world is suffering from a severe drought, and this year is getting worse and worse. The water in the Hutuo River is almost dry, and there is no water for irrigation. This year's grain harvest will be a total failure. Originally, everyone has no surplus food. If there is another total failure, we will really be desperate. Ancestor, if you know in the afterlife, please protect the children of the clan. It would be best if there is a heavy rain. The world has suffered from a severe drought for a long time. After saying that, Chu Ji sighed. Since the drought began, he would come to the ancestral hall to burn incense every day. But in the past few years, the drought is getting worse day by day. He even suspected that someone had offended the gods in the sky and the dragons in the sea. So God punished the drought for several years. At this time, a nimble young man broke into the ancestral hall. "Dad, I found something big." Chu Ji frowned and gently scolded, "How can you be so frivolous in front of our ancestors? Also, this is not home, you have to call me the clan leader." The young man shrank his head and nodded, "Clan leader, I found something big." Chu Ji's face was slightly relieved, and he slowly asked, "What big thing?" The young man took a deep breath and said, "Clan leader, the Hutuo River may not be dry, but someone cut off the water flow." "What? Do you dare to guarantee that what you said is true?" Chu Ji's eyes were sharp. There was a severe drought in the world, and both food and people needed water. So cutting off people's water source is cutting off their way of survival. This is a hatred greater than killing their parents. The young man nodded and said hurriedly, "I traveled to Zhejiazhuang today and saw that their fields were full of water. Chief, you also know that with the flow of the Hutuo River flowing through our village, how could there be so much water for them to irrigate their crops? So I suspect that they diverted all the water from the Hutuo River to themselves. Only a little was left for us." Hearing this, Chu Ji's face flushed. "Grab it back. Must grab it back. Only by grabbing it back can the crops in the tribe be irrigated with water, and everyone has a chance to survive. This is how it was in ancient times. It's not the narrow-mindedness of small farmers. It's that resources are scarce, and if you don't fight for them, they will be eaten up by others. So if you want to survive, you must fight for acres of land, for inches of housing, and for drops of water. Especially water sources. That is something that almost every household must fight for. Even in modern times with abundant resources, villagers from 2 villages often fight over water sources. Not to mention the end of the Eastern Han dynasty. Fortunately, reason finally defeated anger. Chu Ji took a deep breath and suppressed his excitement. This matter was only Chu Yan's one-sided statement after all. Even if Chu Yan was his own son. So he still had to investigate and confirm whether the matter was true. Only then could he decide whether to attack Zhejiazhuang. Of course, part of the reason was that Zhejiazhuang had a lot of martial virtue. Although they didn't cause trouble. But others who provoked them never got any benefits. It can be said that the martial virtue of Zhejiazhuang in Shirley Baxiang is no less famous than the apricot blossom wine in their village. Otherwise, how could Zhejiazhuang occupy the advantageous position beside the Hutuo River? Isn't it all fought for? No, if this is true, our Chu family alone may not be able to snatch the Zhao family. We have to discuss with the Xiahou family. Chu Ji thought so. Then, he patted Chu Yan's shoulder. "Yener, you did a good job. You wait here for a while. I'm going to the Xiahou family to discuss with the head of the Xiahou family, Xiahou Xing. After the discussion, I guess we will send a few more people to investigate. You can take them with you when the time comes." Chu Yan nodded, "Yes, clan leader. Just call me Dad." Chu Ji patted Chu Yan's shoulder. Chu Yan pouted, "Okay, Dad." Chapter 052 Is this true? The main courtyard of the Xiahou family. The reason why they call themselves the head of the family instead of the clan leader is because the main branch of the Xiahou family is still there, and its influence is quite large. They are just a branch. And they often contact the main branch, and have not completely separated. So they call themselves the head of the family instead of the clan leader. Although the Chu family was once a branch of a large family. But things change. They have long been disconnected from the main branch. It is considered to be a branch of its own. Naturally, they call themselves the clan leader instead of the head of the family. Head of the family, the clan leader Chu Ji wants to see you. Please come in. As soon as Chu Ji entered the door, he said to Xiahou Xing. Head of the Xiahou family, I have something important to discuss with you. What is it? Chu Ji did not hesitate and said straight to the point. My son traveled along the Hutuo River. When he passed by Zhejiazhuang, he saw that the fields of the Zhao family were irrigated with water. Now the Hutuo River here is almost dry. Where do you think the water went? He did not continue. Instead, let Xiahou Xing think for himself. Xiahou Xing understood immediately. Are you saying that the Zhao family cut off the flow of the Hutuo River and diverted the river water into their own fields? Chu Ji looked at Xiahou Xing meaningfully. After all, this is just my son's one-sided statement. We must not wrongly accuse the Zhao family. Xiahou Xing nodded. You are right. In this way, I will call my son Xiahou Lan over and ask them to go to Zhejiazhuang again to see if the cutoff is true. That's what I mean. Chu Ji also nodded in agreement. Afterwards, the Xiahou family sent several people, led by Xiahou Lan. The Chu family sent several people, led by Chu Yan. The group did not make a big fanfare, but sneaked towards Zhejiazhuang. Xinghua village is not far from Zhejiazhuang, but of course not close, about 10 miles. Although both are very close to the Hutuo River. But Zhejiazhuang is located in the upper reaches of the Hutuo River and is the old site left after the Hutuo River was diverted. This place has become extremely fertile because of the silt brought by the scouring of the Hutuo River. The location of Xinghua village is actually not bad. But because it has been developed for more than 100 years, the fertility of the land has been getting worse day by day. But there is no way, land reclamation is not as simple as turning over the soil. Now that there have been years of drought, even the original land cannot be cultivated well, let alone land reclamation. Without saying a word, everyone has already approached the fields where Zhejiazhuang is located. They had to hide behind a small hill far away and look forward. In the flat fields, streams of water crisscrossed and moistened every inch of the fields along the ditches dug in the early years. Oh my God, this is true. Zhejiazhuang actually has so much water. Hutuo River belongs to everyone, why does the Zhao family intercept it? That's right. We want to take back the water from Hutuo River. Everyone was angry. You and I were talking as if we were going to tear all the villagers of Zhejiazhuang apart. At this time, Xiahou Lan, the young master of the Xiahou family, stood up and said. Everyone should not speculate, what if this water was pumped out of the well by the Zhao family? As soon as the voice fell, the people who were originally furious and wanted to jump out and fight with Zhejiazhuang now gradually calmed down. Yes. What if it was not the water from Hutuo River that was intercepted? After all, there was only the scene of water flowing into the ditch, and there was no scene of the villagers of Zhejiazhuang actively intercepting the Hutuo River. Chu Yan curled his lips at the side. How big a well would be needed to irrigate the fields? And if it was water from a well, do you think they would dare to waste it by opening the gate? Indeed. If it was water from a well, few families would dare to waste it by opening the gate and letting it flow directly into the gully. Opening the gate to release water is certainly convenient. But it wastes too much water. It is already very good if 1/5 of a portion of water can be used. How rich must a rich family be to dare to do this in a drought year? So the best way is to carry the water a little bit by a shoulder pole. Although this way people are a little tired. But the same amount of water can save more crops. Is it because Zhao Yun from Zhejiazhuang is your friend that you are so hesitant? Chu Yan suddenly said again. Xiahou Lan opened his mouth, not knowing how to refute. Although Zhao Yun from Zhejiazhuang is indeed his friend. But he really did not sacrifice public interests for personal interests. He just felt that since he was here, he should investigate it clearly, rather than just taking a quick look. Then he hurried back to report the news in a daze. Chu Yan took a step back. I'll convince you. Let's go to the Hutuo River now. Let's see if the Zhao family has blocked the Hutuo River. Having said that, Xiahou Lan had nothing else to say. He had to nod in agreement. The few of them immediately turned around and headed towards the Hutuo River. After a while, they arrived at the Hutuo River. Not far away was Zhejiazhuang, which was built with rammed earth walls. They hid behind the small slope and stretched their heads to look into the distance. They saw more than 10 tall water wheels standing upright on the Hutuo River. Next to the water wheel was a familiar Zhejiazhuang villager. After all, they were from the same hometown. Although they didn't meet every day, but they had met a few times. At this time, the villagers of Zhejiazhuang were standing next to the water wheel, struggling to step on the wheel connected to the water wheel with their feet. The wheel rotated rapidly, and the water wheel also turned slowly, driven by the gears. Every time the water wheel turned, a large amount of water poured into the ditch that was 1 person wide on the side, and then flowed into every acre of land along the ditch. Of course, the most important thing is, the water wheel poured the water of the Hutuo River into the fields. There was only a trickle behind. How is it? Is it the water of the Hutuo River that was cut off by the Zhao family? Do you have anything to say? Chu Yan asked proudly with his head raised. Xiahou Lan sighed and had nothing to say. Let's go back and report it. Then, several people turned around and left, rushing towards Xinghua village. Chapter 053 Take Back Your Own Water. How is it? As soon as they arrived at the gate of Xinghua village, they were stopped by Xiahou Xing and Chu Ji. Chu Yan said impatiently. It's confirmed that it was the Zhao family who cut off the flow of the Hutuo River. We all saw that they set up more than a dozen water wheels, which continuously brought river water into the fields, but only left us a trickle. After saying that, Xiahou Xing and Chu Ji looked at the others again. Others also stood up to say that what Chu Yan said was right. Even Xiahou Lan sighed and nodded. Xiahou Xing knew the temperament of this child. Always seek truth from facts. Since Xiahou Lan nodded in agreement, it seems that it was really the Zhao family who cut off the flow of the Hutuo River. Good, good. Since you cut off our livelihood, don't blame us for causing trouble for you. I'll go back and tell my clan members about this now. Me too, gather here in an hour, and we'll go together to punish the Zhao family. Okay. Xiahou Xing and Chu Ji looked at each other. Then they quickly returned to the village with their respective people. Father, are we going to cause trouble for the Zhao family now? Chu Yan asked. Chu Ji glanced at Chu Yan. What do you mean by causing trouble for them? They cut off our water supply, and we are taking back what belongs to us. Okay, everyone praises you for being as light as a swallow, and now it's time for you to show off. You go and inform our clan members that a clan meeting is being held in the ancestral hall now. Chu Yan nodded. Yes, father. After saying that, he flashed out. Very fast. Not long after, he disappeared. The news spread quickly, 1 person told 10, 10 told 100. It didn't take long for all the Chu family members in Xinghua village to know that a clan meeting was going to be held in the ancestral hall. Although they didn't understand why the clan meeting was suddenly held. But they knew. The whole clan has always held a meeting, but once it is held, it must be an important matter concerning the whole clan. Therefore, everyone dared not neglect it. They put down what they were doing and rushed to the ancestral hall. What do you think the whole clan meeting is for today? How should I know? Hey, the weather is getting hotter and hotter, the crops are dying of drought, and there is not much water in the Hutuo River. I guess the clan leader should ask everyone to brainstorm and find a solution. I hope there will be a solution, but in fact I hope that God will give us a heavy rain. Hush, everyone be quiet, the clan leader is here. With the appearance of Chu Ji, the originally noisy ancestral hall instantly became quiet. It is obvious that Chu Ji has a very high prestige in the clan. Chu Ji walked in front of everyone, followed by Chu Yan and the people who had just gone to Zhejiazhuang to investigate. Everyone should be very curious about why I want to hold a whole clan meeting. Everyone nodded. Chu Ji cleared his throat and said loudly. It's very simple, because the suffering we are experiencing now is brought to us by others. As soon as the voice fell, everyone present was in an uproar. Chief, what do you mean? Yes, do you want us to rebel? He didn't dare to say the word rebellion. But everyone understood what he meant. It's nothing more than kings, princes, generals and ministers, and they are all of different species. But if that's the case, everyone is still unwilling. Because they haven't really reached a dead end. Rebellion is always the last resort. However, Chu Ji shook his head. Of course not rebellion. Have you seen that the flow of the Hutuo River is getting smaller and smaller recently? Everyone nodded. Yes, it's getting smaller day by day. Now the water in the Hutuo River is not even enough for irrigation. Chief, why are you asking about the water in the Hutuo River? Finally, Chu Ji stopped keeping the secret and said. The reason why you feel that the flow of the Hutuo River has become smaller is not because of drought, but someone has cut off our water flow. Due to the drought, the flow of the Hutuo River will certainly decrease, but in previous years, at least a small amount of irrigation can be done. But this year, the water flow can't even be used for irrigation. Why? It's because Zhejiazhuang used a water truck upstream to cut off our water flow. As soon as this was said, the whole audience was in an uproar. If the flow of the Hutuo River has decreased because of drought, it is a natural disaster. Then they may complain and be angry. But in the end, they can only accept it with a pinch of their noses. Because no matter how much they complain and resent, they can't have any impact on God. They were even afraid that their reckless behavior would offend the heavens. And even suffer greater disasters. However, if the decrease in the flow of the Hutuo River was not due to natural disasters, but man-made disasters, that would be completely different. We all have 2 eyes, 1 nose, and 1 mouth. Why can you occupy the water flow? And we can only endure drought? The Hutuo River belongs to everyone. Not to an individual. So, after hearing that the water of the Hutuo River was cut off by the Zhao family, everyone present showed strong anger. Of course, not everyone in the Chu family was instigated by such a sentence. There was still a small number of people who asked calmly. Patriarch, is this true? Chu Ji nodded, and then pushed Chu Yan and the people around him forward. In order to ensure the authenticity of the matter, I joined forces with the Xiahou family to send some people to investigate. The result is obvious, it was the water flow cut off by the Zhao family. If you don't believe it, you can ask them. The children of the Chu family present came forward one after another to ask questions. Chu Yan and others had already prepared their words. They answered fluently. Of course, the matter was true, so they had no pressure to answer. As the questioning deepened, the anger on the faces of the children of the Chu family became more and more obvious. It was like a gunpowder barrel. It was just a spark that ignited the gunpowder. Chu Ji was that spark. I think everyone must have understood it. So, next we have to go to the Zhao family to ask for an explanation and take back the water that belongs to us from the Zhao family. Are you willing to follow me? After saying that, he raised his arms and called. The children of the Chu family below were also instantly infected. Yes, take back the water that belongs to us. Yes, take back the water that belongs to us. Yes, take back the water that belongs to us. The whistling sound was deafening. Chu Ji raised his hands and gently pressed them down. The Chu family members were instantly quiet. Of course, our Chu family is not the only one involved in this matter. I also invited the Xiahou family to participate. We will gather at the entrance of the village later, and then set off with the Xiahou family to Zhejiazhuang to ask for punishment. Okay, everyone go back and make some preparations. After that, all the Chu family members present left the ancestral hall and walked towards their own homes. But the anger on their faces did not diminish at all. Chapter 054 Departure and Momentum. Let them go back and prepare. Of course, they are not preparing gifts, but weapons. Yes, weapons. In ancient times, fighting for water sources was never a matter of good talk. Instead, force was required. The law of the jungle. Only the strong can occupy resources and water sources. But how to prove that you are strong? Very simple. Use force to knock the other party down. In fact, the means of fighting for water sources in the late Eastern Han Dynasty were actually very gentle. In the 1980s and 1990s, the flower-growing families in later generations. However, there was an outrageous scene in which 2 villages in Guangdong took out Maxim and mortars to fight for water sources. Even the 3-3 tactics were used. In the end, the army entered the scene. Only then did they finally resolve the 2 parties. It can be seen that the martial virtues of the flower-growing families have been engraved in their bones from ancient times to the present. Like to farm. But if someone does not allow farming, they don't mind planting those who disagree in the field. Of course, it can also be seen from the side how cruel it is to fight for water sources. This is the case even in the later generations, which have already entered the industrial society. Not to mention the agricultural society in ancient times. So what they fought for was never water, but the opportunity to survive. Not long after. At the entrance of Xinghua village. The children of the Chu family and the Xiahou family came out with their weapons. Everyone stood on both sides clearly. However, most of them were not standard weapons, but ordinary farm tools. Although the Han Dynasty did not ban swords and weapons, but only banned crossbows and armor. But this does not mean that you can show off your power with swords and guns everywhere. In fact, the purchase and forging of standard weapons need to be reported. Of course, the process is not difficult. As long as it is not purchased in large quantities, the government generally does not care. And standard weapons are not affordable for everyone. Most people here are farmers. They have not learned martial arts specifically. Even if they buy a standard sword, they will not use it. They have been farming for a lifetime. If a fight really breaks out, the effect of temporarily changing unfamiliar swords may not be as good as holding farm tools. Finally, all the people from the Chu family and the Xiahou family who were going to Zhejiazhuang have arrived. At a glance, they were all young and strong. The old, young, women and children in the disaster years took out the little food from their mouths and gave it to them first. It was for this moment. The scale of the Chu family and the Xiahou family was not actually large. The single family was actually about the same as the Zhao family. But the 2 families combined. They gathered more than 600 young and strong people. Almost as many as all the people in Zhejiazhuang. However, the weapons of the young and strong on the Xiahou family side were obviously better. After all, it was a branch of the Xiahou family, a big family in Qiao County, Pei County, Shuzhou. Maybe the relationship was a little distant. But they would more or less accept the gifts from the host family, including but not limited to various books and martial arts. The Chu family on the other side was obviously much worse. The young and strong held almost all farm tools in their hands. Only a very small number of them held standard weapons. But in terms of order, the 2 families were completely opposite. The helpless Chu family was actually more orderly than the Xiahou family, a branch of a large family. Especially when the heads of the 2 families came over. After seeing Chu Ji, the young and strong men of the Chu family stood up straight and kept silent. There was already a shadow of discipline. When Xiahou Xing came out. Although the young and strong men of the Xiahou family also saluted. But only after a while. Everyone went their own way again. If you look closely at the eyes of the children of the 2 families, you will find that the children of the Xiahou family only respect Xiahou Xing. The Chu family members not only respect Chu Ji, but also have a strong fear of him. This is also due to the personalities of the two people. Chu Ji can become the patriarch because he is the most capable person in the Chu family. And Xiahou Xing can become the head of the family. It is simply because he is the eldest son of the Xiahou family. Of course, he is not stupid. A fool cannot be the head of a family with hundreds of people for so long. The children in the family cannot respect him so much. It's just that they are not as strong as Chu Ji. Chu Ji walked to the front of the two teams before Xiahou Xing, and then said loudly, "Everyone be quiet for a moment, let me say something." As soon as the voice fell, not only did the Chu family members keep silent, but even the Xiahou family members also quieted down and looked at Chu Ji. Chu Ji nodded slightly, and then said, "I believe everyone has already known about the matter of Zhejiazhuang cutting off the water supply to the Hutuo River. Cutting off someone's water source is like cutting off their livelihood. So, next we must take back what belongs to us. Everyone, follow me." As soon as the voice fell, Chu Ji walked in front and led the Chu family to set off first. Xiahou Xing also hurriedly stepped forward with the young and strong people in his clan and followed closely behind. Xiahou Lan, who was standing by, came forward and curled his lips. "Dad, the head of the Chu family is a bit overstepping his authority." Xiahou Xing looked at Chu Ji's back, wondering what he was thinking. "Si Zheng, don't underestimate the head of the Chu family. He is trying to build momentum." Si Zheng was Xiahou Lan's name. He frowned and muttered, "Build momentum? Is it for our Xiahou family?" Xia Huing shook his head. "I'm asking you, what is the current trend of the world?" Xiahou Lan's expression froze, knowing that his father was going to test him. The emperor of the Han dynasty was deceived by treacherous officials, the 10 eunuchs disrupted the government, sold official positions and titles, and formed a group of traitors. In addition, there were constant disasters in the world, and the people were displaced. The Han dynasty would sooner or later be in chaos. But what does this have to do with the momentum of the head of the Chu family? Could it be that he wants to rebel? Xiahou Xing shook his head. "You have a clear view of the general situation in the world, but you don't understand human nature very much. He may not dare to rebel. He is now building momentum just to establish a strong image among our two families. If the world is really in chaos, and our two families are in the same village, then he will have the opportunity to use our two families' team to seek a career in the chaos." Xiahou Lan's eyes widened. "I didn't expect the head of the Chu family to have such a big plan." "Then Dad, you let him do it?" Xiahou Xing shook his head. "If he is really capable, it may not be a bad idea to follow him. Our two families have been together for 100 years. Although they are still two families, in fact, you have me in you and I have you in me." Xiahou Lan was stunned. Because he found that his father was right. Over the past 100 years, the Chu family and the Xiahou family, who lived in the same village, were still two families in name. But in fact, they had long been inseparable. Many of his friends were Chu family members. His grandmother and several aunts were Chu family members. His brothers also married Chu family members. Even some of his sisters married Chu family members. The same is true for the Xiahou family. Although the two families have two surnames, they are basically related. With such a relationship, Chu Ji only needs to keep building momentum for himself. When the world is in chaos, if he raises his arms and calls for action, there will definitely be a lot of followers. Xiahou Lan understood. But it was useless. Because this was an open conspiracy, upright, relying on personal charm. I believe that the Xiahou family is not the only one who can see it. Everyone is also waiting and watching. To see if this person is really a wise leader worth following. Besides, if the world is really in chaos, who to follow is not the same. It's better to follow someone familiar than to just follow someone without knowing anything, right? Chapter 055 Road Blocking. a team of more than 600 young and strong men marched toward Zhejiazhuang. People from other villages along the way saw it. They all gave way. They did not dare to come forward to say hello, but only dared to shrink far behind. They were afraid that they would be in trouble. Soon, everyone came to the vicinity of Zhejiazhuang. Zhejiazhuang has thousands of acres of land. So before everyone saw the 10-foot-high rammed earth wall of Zhejiazhuang, they saw the continuous fields. Unlike their fields that were dry, yellow and cracked. The fields in Zhejiazhuang were extremely moist. Clear water flowed in the crisscrossing ditches. There was no sign of drought at all. Looking at the water. Some people in the Chu and Xiahou families had not seen such clear water for a long time. They couldn't help but kneel on the ground. They bent down to scoop a handful of water from the ditch and poured it on their faces. It was cool and refreshing. Since the drought began, they have never done such a thing again. It's nothing, it's just a waste of water. Water in drought periods is calculated by the drop. Such a waste of water. Are you not going to live well in the future? However, the actions of this small group of people instantly infected the entire team. More and more people gathered around the ditch. Some people scooped up water and drank it. Some people scooped up water and poured it all over their bodies. Others directly submerged their heads in the ditch just to feel the power of the water flow. Chu Ji and Xiahou Xing watched this scene. They did not stop it. Because they knew. Only by feeling the benefits of water in person can they burst out with stronger fighting power later. Yes, although they haven't seen the people of Zhejiazhuang yet. But they have already started to prepare. Because neither Chu Ji nor Xiahou Xing thought that the people of Zhejiazhuang would easily give up the water. In the end, they still had to resort to force. Sure enough, after they felt the water and returned to the team, the anger on their faces became more and more obvious. They no longer doubted what their clan leader and the head of the family said. I have great resentment towards the Zhao family whom I have not met yet. If the Zhao family did not cut off the Hutuo River, this water should have been ours. We can also use water freely and happily like now, without having to count carefully every day and watch the water stored at home run out bit by bit. The withered crops in the fields can also come back to life. The days and the future will become more and more promising. Gather the team again. This team is composed of young and strong people from the Chu family and the Xiahou family. The fighting spirit is high. In war, when there is no absolute advantage in numbers, morale is often the key to victory or defeat. And now, the morale of this team is unprecedentedly high. Soon, everyone came to the Hutuo River. The rammed earth wall of Zhejiazhuang was not far away. However, there was no Zhejiazhuang in the eyes of this group of people. After all, their purpose of coming here this time was not to attack Zhejiazhuang. It was just to fight for water. If it can be solved in the wild, of course it is best to solve it in the wild. They had to cross the rammed earth wall to fight the Zhao family. Isn't that using one's own weakness to attack the enemy's strength? A complete fool's behavior. Near the Hutuo River, they have seen more than 10 human-powered pedal water wheels standing by the river. On the wheel next to the water wheel, there is always a person standing there pedaling hard. The first person is tired, and as soon as the wheel is turned, the next person immediately takes over. The water wheel is almost never allowed to rest. Every time you step on it, you can see streams of water being brought out of the Hutuo River by the water wheel. Then it rolls into the big ditch. Finally, it flows slowly into every inch of the field along the smaller ditch. Chu Ji coughed lightly to interrupt everyone's thoughts, and said loudly, "Everyone follow me, I will take you to ask the Zhao family for an explanation." As soon as the voice fell, everyone nodded, and then followed Chu Ji towards the direction of the water wheel. However, before they reached the water wheel, they were stopped by two members of the Zhao family nearby. "Who are you?" Chu Ji stepped forward and laughed. "Who are we? I am the patriarch of the Chu family in Xinghua village, and this is Xiahou Xing, the head of the Xiahou family in Xinghua village." Behind us are the descendants of the Chu family and the Xiahou family in Xinghua village. Hearing about Xinghua village, the two villagers of Zhejiazhuang frowned slightly. Of course they had heard of it. But Xinghua village and Zhejiazhuang were more than 10 miles apart. What was there that was worth mobilizing so many people? More than 600 young men. Perhaps all the young men from the two families in Xinghua village had come. Moreover, they all looked angry and ferocious. The key point was that they were all carrying weapons. It was obvious that they were not friendly. Thinking of this, the two villagers were nervous. One of them immediately winked at the other. The villager immediately understood. He took 2 steps back with his body bent. Then he ran towards the village desperately without looking back. Of course, he was not running away. He was going back to inform the clan leader. Only the clan leader could deal with such a big thing. The other villager took a deep breath and stood in front of the people in Xinghua village with a calm expression. He now had only one word. Delay. Delay until the clan leader came and most of the people in Zhejiazhuang came. As for his own safety, he had already ignored it. Anyway, as long as he doesn't die, he can go back to Zhaoli and ask for 2 bowls of milk. Even if he loses his arms and legs, he can recover quickly. So you are the famous Chu family and Xiahou family of Xinghua village. I am honored to meet you. I just don't know why you have gathered so many people to my Zhejiazhuang. Chu Ji and Xiahou Xing looked at each other, a little bit incredible. The small Zhejiazhuang is really full of talents. Just one person dared to stop more than 600 people with weapons. Chu Ji did not answer, but asked. Who are you? The Zhejiazhuang villager bowed and saluted. I am Zhao Can, a small and insignificant person in Zhejiazhuang. Chu Ji nodded slightly. Zhao Can? Okay, I will remember you. But we have to go to the Hutuo River now. Do you want to let us go or not? Go to the Hutuo River? It's that simple? Zhao Can was relieved immediately. But he quickly realized that the Hutuo River is not only in Zhejiazhuang. They also have it in Xinghua village. Could it be that they can't go to the Hutuo River in Xinghua village, and have to come to the Hutuo River in Zhejiazhuang? Is there another hidden story? In an instant, Zhao Can thought a lot. However, no matter what it is, they can't go there before the patriarch arrives. After all, who knows whether they are telling the truth or a lie? What if it's a lie? As soon as they let it go, they immediately changed direction. In the end, if it brings heavy losses to Zhejiazhuang, then he would make a big mistake. Zhao Can shook his head and said firmly. I'm sorry, I can't let you go. Chu Ji stared at Zhao Can. Aren't you afraid of so many people behind us? Zhao Can nodded calmly. Of course I am afraid, I'm just an ordinary person. But this is my duty, so I can't let you go. If you are not in a hurry, my cousin has already gone to find the clan leader. You can wait for our clan leader to come and discuss it with him. Your 2 big families in Xinghua village won't make things difficult for a mere villain like me. Chu Ji looked at Zhao Can with admiration. He is not afraid of danger and can deal with it calmly. He is a talent. Although they came here to grab water. But they are really not in a hurry at this moment. And what Zhao Can said makes sense. Hutuo River is not a dead thing, but a river. No matter how they fight for it, the river water still rolls forward without human will. So even if they want to take the water of Hutuo River from the Zhao family, in the end, the Zhao family leader and most of the Zhejiazhuang villagers still need to agree and make the final decision. Otherwise, the upstream Zhejiazhuang will cut off their water flow every few days. They also have their own sufferings. Unless, they are all killed. But do you really think that the Han government is just for free? And the people of the Zhao family will not be killed. In the end, even if they can win, their Chu family and Xiahou family will suffer heavy losses. They may even never recover from this. Therefore, it is best to negotiate in a friendly way. But if not, he will not hesitate to use force to force the Zhao family to agree. Water, they will never give up. At most, send more people to patrol every day. Chapter 056. Is this someone with bad intentions? Gather at Zhejiazhuang. At this moment, in Zhao An's house in Zhejiazhuang, Zhao Feng hurried back. Dad, why did you ask me to come back? Zhao An glanced at him. Are the water wheels assembled? All assembled, all 15 water wheels assembled. We can perfectly use the unlimited water source given by the gods from all directions. Zhao Feng nodded, with a proud look on his face. Dad, I'm not bragging, our village will never lack water again. Even if we reclaim another 10,000 acres of land, the water will be enough. Zhao An shook his head helplessly. Okay, look at your character, you become proud after learning some Mahist skills. I asked you to come back to ask if you can make tap water. Tap water? Zhao Feng frowned. What is this? Zhao An repeated the concept of tap water that the immortal said. After listening, Zhao Feng was thoughtful. You are really an immortal. If this tap water can be made, it will definitely benefit thousands of households. Zhao An also nodded in approval. Yes, that's why I asked you if you can make it. Are there any technical difficulties? If you can make it, our Zhejiazhuang can also enjoy the convenience of tap water first. Zhao Feng shook his head and nodded again. Yes and no. What do you mean? Zhao An asked in confusion. Zhao Feng said helplessly. If you insist on talking about technical difficulties, there are indeed none. Whether it is a simplified version of tap water or a complete version of tap water, I can make it. But the problem is that only I can make it, and no one else in our village can do it. Tap water is not a small project. My strength alone is limited. And Dad, you can't just squeeze me, right? Zhao Feng has been fond of studying Mahist classics since he was a child. Although he doesn't often do it. But his craftsmanship has long been the best in the entire Zhejiazhuang. The previous 673 human-powered pedal water wheel was proposed by him and manufactured and assembled. When Zhao An heard that it could be manufactured, he was surprised at first, but when he heard that only Zhao Feng could make it, he sighed again. Hey! Is it just like that? Zhao Feng shook his head. Dad, can you consider my previous proposal? As soon as the voice fell, Zhao An was also stunned. Zhao Feng had mentioned it to him once 2 years ago. Select a group of people from the villagers of Zhejiazhuang. Let Zhao Feng teach them skills. Especially the skills of carpentry and blacksmithing. And these people don't need to be proficient in all Mahist skills. Everyone only needs to choose some of the ones they like or are good at according to their own abilities to learn and master them. But there has been a drought in the past 2 years. Although it was better in winter, it was still very cold. In the end, the people in Zhejiazhuang were either saving crops or on the way to save crops. They didn't dare to rest for a moment. The little time left was not enough for rest. Where would they have time to learn other craftsmanship? But now it's different. With the unlimited water source given by the gods. And the human-powered pedal water wheel built by Zhao Feng. In the future, we will no longer need so many people to carry water to irrigate the farmland every day. Only a small number of people need to be arranged for rotation. The unlimited water can be introduced into the ditch to irrigate thousands of acres of land. After that, the most we will do is to remove weeds. Inspect the growth of crops. Before the crops mature, most people can rest and find something else to do. For example, practice martial arts with Zhao Yun and rehearse military formations. Or learn Mahist skills with Zhao Feng. Zhao An nodded. I agree with your proposal. I will hold a clan meeting later to see how many people are willing to learn Mahist skills from you. Hearing this, Zhao Feng was immediately happy. Great. There are other people learning from him. Maybe it will be a bit tiring to teach in the early stage. But wait until they finish learning. He can be much more relaxed. At least he doesn't have to run around for a few small water wheels. When more and more people in Zhejiazhuang know Mahist skills, the tap water mentioned by the immortal will no longer be a problem. At this time, Zhao An asked again. By the way, do you have any requirements for the candidates who learn from you? Zhao Feng shook his head. No requirements. If it was before, I guess I would ask you to find more people with physical disabilities in the village, so that they can have a skill to make a living after learning from me. But since drinking the milk magic medicine given by the immortal, everyone in our Zhejiazhuang has been very good. Even Uncle Yuanzhen's legs have grown again, so of course I don't have any requirements. Zhaoan touched the long beard on his chin. The immortal is very kind, we must repay the immortal in the future. That's for sure. Suddenly, Zhao Feng shrank his head and showed a sly look. As a father, he knew what his son was thinking when he raised his butt. Others think you are steady. Tell me, what bad idea have you come up with? Zhao Feng complained immediately. Dad, why do you say that to me? Am I so unbearable in your eyes? Zhaoan pouted. You are strong on the outside but weak on the inside, pretending to be pretentious. Okay, tell me directly. Zhao Feng nodded and whispered. Dad, I made a good thing, I can repay the immortal master. Huh? What is it? Zhaoan immediately became curious. Hehe, the thing is in the room, I will go to get it now. Zhao Feng said. Zhaoan frowned and said bluntly. It's okay, we can go and get it together. Zhao Feng hesitated for a moment, but still brought Zhaoan to his house. As soon as he pushed open the door, Zhaoan saw a wooden sculpture placed in the middle of the house. There was a futon under the sculpture. Who are you worshipping at home? Zhao Feng showed a mysterious smile. Dad, why don't you go over and see who it is? Zhaoan frowned and moved closer to take a look. It turned out that the wood sculpture was Yun Yi. It was ethereal and full of charm. Although it was just a dead object. But anyone who saw it felt as if Yun Yi was really standing there. Is this the immortal? He widened his eyes and turned to look at Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng grinned. The immortal has done us a great favor, so I carved a wooden sculpture of the immortal and prepared to worship it day and night. Zhaoan nodded in agreement, and was about to praise Zhao Feng. But he seemed to have thought of something. He picked up a piece of white cloth and carefully wrapped Yun Yi's wooden statue in his hand. Then he said with a straight face. You did a good job in this matter. The immortal has been very kind to us, and we really need to be worshipped day and night. But why did you tell me now? Why didn't you ask me before carving? Zhao Feng, huh? Zhaoan coughed lightly. I won't punish you this time, but I will take away the wooden statue of the immortal. After saying that, he put the wooden statue in his arms. At this moment, Zhao Feng couldn't see that Zhaoan clearly wanted to take the wooden statue for himself, but he found an excuse. Dad, you took the wooden statue, what should I do? Zhaoan said as a matter of course. I carved another one at that time. What? Are you planning to take the wooden statue of the immortal back from your father? Zhao Feng saw Zhaoan's arrogant look. He opened his mouth and sighed helplessly. What else can he do? He can only carve another one. Are you really going to take it back? This is his biological father, blood is thicker than water. Besides, the Han dynasty advocated filial piety as the most important virtue. Even the system of becoming an official was to select filial and honest people. If he dared to take it back today, he would be broken by the villagers of Zhejiazhuang tomorrow. Dad, you are cheating me. Humph, I haven't even worshipped the immortal yet, but you worshipped the immortal before me. No way. Zhaoan laughed and walked out of the house with the wooden statue in his arms. As soon as he went out, he took out the wooden statue in his arms and admired it carefully. It looks like, too much like. It can be said that the charm of the immortal was carved out. Hehe, I can worship the immortal day and night in the future. No, such a good statue of the immortal, I have to show off to my brothers first. However, he had just walked into the house. He saw a young man running over in a hurry. He knew this young man. It was his sixth brother's son, Zhaoan. Chief, it's not good. Zhaoan hurriedly comforted him, don't worry, we can talk slowly if there is anything wrong. What's wrong? He is very confident now. After all, the immortal is living in Zhejiazhuang now. With the immortal here, what can't be solved? However, it is better not to trouble the immortal for things that can be handled by yourself. Zhao Yun shook his head and said without even catching his breath, outside the village, a group of outsiders came outside the village. Zhao Yun was slightly stunned. If there are outsiders, then there are outsiders. What's wrong with that? Could it be that they are bandits? His heart was immediately lifted. He still remembered the bandits looting Zhejiazhuang 7 years ago. Could it be that they are bandits? Zhao Yun shook his head, not bandits, but people from Xinghua village. Oh, I thought they were bandits. It turned out to be people from Xinghua village. He is very familiar with Xinghua village. After all, they are in the same township. Everyone sees each other every day. And some of the women in Zhejiazhuang were originally from Xinghua village. It's okay. I know the patriarch of the Chu family in Xinghua village and the head of the Xiahou family. Zhao Yun quickly replied, it's the two of them, but they didn't come with just a few people. They brought a large group of about 500 or 600 young men. And I saw that they all had weapons in their hands. It's obvious that they are not here for good. Hiss. Zhao Yun immediately gasped. 500 or 600 young men. And they all carried weapons? What are they going to do? Attack Zhejiazhuang? But the problem is that they don't have any surplus food in Zhejiazhuang. Even if they take it down, it won't be enough to feed a few people. Besides, if they really want to attack, wouldn't it be much better to attack the county town than to attack their dilapidated Zhejiazhuang? No, no matter what, they must be stopped outside Zhejiazhuang. The immortal is still in Zhejiazhuang. It would be a great sin to let them disturb the immortal. Zhao Feng. I'm here. You and Zhao Yun go and notify the others, ask them to bring their weapons and gather at the entrance of the village immediately. Yes, clan leader. Then Zhao Feng and Zhao Yun ran to notify them without looking back. The situation was urgent. So after Zhao Feng and Zhao Yun notified each household, they asked them to help notify them. Not long after, everyone in Zhejiazhuang knew about it. They picked up their weapons and farm tools and marched toward the entrance of the village in an orderly manner. Tong Yuan, who had just finished a set of shooting skills in the training ground. He also received the news. However, it was not the people in Zhejiazhuang who took the initiative to inform. Instead, when notifying other people in the training ground, he heard it. Then he took the initiative to run to the entrance of Zhejiazhuang and asked Zhao Yun to go with him. But Tong Yuan was still lying in bed yesterday and almost died. Today he was asked to participate in such a dangerous activity. If outsiders knew about this, how would they view Zhejiazhuang? So Zhao Yun persuaded him earnestly. Master Tong, your body is not well yet, so don't go yet. Besides, the situation is urgent. If you are in danger, Zhao Yun will hate me for the rest of his life if he knows it. However, Tong Yuan shook his head. I am here, and you are in this situation again. How can I stay out of it? Even if I really stay out of it, how will others see me? They will not say that you are kind and don't let an old man like me come forward, but they will only say that the generation of gun gods has become greedy and afraid of death when they get old. Besides, don't look at my age, my martial arts are much better than yours. If I really encounter danger, I will be safer than you. Finally, my injury was healed by the immortal. If you don't believe me, do you still not believe in the immortal? Now that it's come to this, Zhao Yun can't stop him. And Tong Yuan is right. With his martial arts, it's hard to say who is in danger if they really fight. There is no false reputation under a great name. In the past, he had many hidden diseases in his body and his blood was exhausted. Of course, he may not be able to defeat some young people with extraordinary talents. For example, Zhao Yun. Although Zhao Yun is only 18 years old, his attainments in spearmanship have already surpassed his master. And he is born with supernatural power. Just wait for more actual combat training. You can officially surpass Tong Yuan. But now it's different. after taking the milk magic medicine. All the injuries and hidden diseases in his body have been repaired. Even the exhausted blood has been restored to a large extent. Add to that decades of actual combat experience. Looking at the whole world, there are not many 4.8. I am confident that my martial arts skills will beat his. With Tong Yuan's help, even if the two families in Xinghua village really join forces to attack Zhejiazhuang, he is confident that he can repel them like his father did 7 years ago. Moreover, if he really gets angry, he can invite the Immortal Master to come out. Secondly, just using the hundreds of armors and standard weapons in the abandoned cellar warehouse, he can defeat the two families in Xinghua village 10 times. But it is best not to go to this step. Because taking out armor and standard weapons will attract conquest. Asking the Immortal Master to take action will also easily cause the Immortal Master's disgust. After all, the Immortal Master is not a servant of their Zhao family. It is their Zhao family that needs the Immortal Master's gift to stay alive. Okay, but Master Tong, you must pay attention to safety. If you can avoid taking action, try not to take action. Besides, our Zhao family is not a coward, and we will definitely be able to properly resolve this matter. Tong Yuan nodded. Chief Zhao, we are old friends, I still believe in your ability. By the way, where are Zhao Yun, Zhao Yu and Zhao Yin? Why don't you see them for such an important matter? Especially Zhao Yun, this boy's martial arts are no worse than mine now. With them, even if there is a fight, Zhejiazhuang will have a chance of winning. 17. Zhao Yun grinned and said. He, they are accompanying the Immortal Master, don't call them over. Tong Yuan was stunned and nodded. It's good to accompany the Immortal Master. If I were not old, would also like to sit in front of the Immortal Master. You are right. No matter how big our affairs are, they are just mortal affairs. Don't let our mortal affairs affect the immortals. Zhao Yun also nodded in agreement. Chapter 057 Gods. What nonsense are you talking about? At the entrance of Zhejiazhuang. The young and strong men of Zhejiazhuang have already gathered. However, compared with the more than 600 people from the Chu family and the Xiahou family, the Zhao family only gathered more than 300 young and strong men. Although the number is a little less, each of them can be called an elite. After all, there is Tong Yuan. As the saying goes, true teaching is a sentence, false teaching is 10,000 books. Even if Tong Yuan just casually points out one or two, it can benefit the villagers who practice martial arts. What happened? Why did the clan leader organize us all and ask us to bring weapons? You don't know yet? What do I know? I was just in the toilet and was suddenly called here. I heard that a group of people with bad intentions came to the village, and they all carried weapons. Hiss, they are not bandits. It shouldn't be. Bandits won't give us time to gather. Everyone was discussing. Seeing that everyone was present, Zhao Yun walked up to the crowd and said loudly. I won't keep you in suspense. Just now, the head of the Xinghua village clan and the head of the Xiahou family came to our village with their young and strong men. I don't know what they are going to do, but I know they came with weapons and must have bad intentions. It's best not to fight, but if you have to fight, please show your best condition. Whoever wants to bully our Zhejiazhuang, please be prepared to break your teeth. Everyone, follow me. As soon as the voice fell, all the villagers of Zhejiazhuang present were full of fighting spirit. They were heroic and high-spirited. They marched out of the village in a mighty manner. As time went by, the hot sun shone on his body, and Zhao San was already wet with sweat. He wiped the fine beads of sweat on his forehead. He frowned and glanced behind him. But there was no one in sight. Strange, why hasn't the clan leader come yet? Did the clan brother fail to notify them? After waiting for so long, the children of the Chu family and Xiahou family opposite were a little impatient. After all, they had been exposed to the sun for so long. No one would have a good face when they came. No, when will your clan leader come out? That's right, your clan leader won't be so scared that he dare not come out, right? Oh, it turns out that Zhejiazhuang is a group of cowards. With a 16-headed beast, the Chu family and Xiahou family were like opening Pandora's box. You and I ridiculed Zhao Can. Zhao Can's face was slightly red. This matter was indeed not done by the Zhao family. It has been so long and he has not come. However, compared with the people of the Chu family and Xiahou family, he was obviously much calmer. Because he knew the clan leader could not come. The gods still live in Zhejiazhuang. Being a coward at this time, wouldn't that be looked down upon by the gods? So he thought. It should be that the cousin delayed some time when notifying. But the clan leader must be on the way. You can't wait? Don't worry, our clan leader will definitely come. The other side asked. What if he doesn't come? Zhao Can was silent for a while, then stepped forward, his eyes sharp. If the clan leader doesn't come, I will pay you with my life. Chu Ji coughed lightly and stopped the noise of the two families. Why do we want your life? But for your courage, we will give you a favor and wait a little longer. But we can't wait indefinitely. You name a time. If your clan leader doesn't come after this deadline, don't blame us for forcing our way in. Zhao Can nodded. Okay, then a quarter of an hour. In ancient times, a sundial was used to divide a day into 12 hours. An hour is divided into 8 quarters of an hour. So a quarter of an hour is 15 minutes in later generations. A quarter of an hour? This time is not long. Chu Ji nodded slightly. Okay, then we will wait another quarter of an hour. After hearing Chu Ji's agreement, Zhao Can was obviously relieved. In fact, if the Xiahou family and the Xiahou family forced their way in, he would definitely not be able to stop them. He is not a peerless warrior who can defeat thousands of enemies. But since they are willing to wait for a while, it means that there is still room for negotiation. And a quarter of an hour is almost enough. After all, half an hour has passed before. Such a long time. Even if the clan leader was halfway through, he should have packed up and rushed over. Fortunately, Zhaoan did not disappoint Zhao Can. Only half a quarter of an hour had passed. He rushed out with all the young and strong men in Zhejiazhuang. And he directly blocked the young and strong men of the two families in Xinghua village and Zhao Can. Clan leader, you are finally here. Seeing Zhaoan, Zhao Can's momentum suddenly relaxed and he almost collapsed to the ground. Fortunately, Zhaoan was quick-witted. He supported him. Thank you for your hard work. Leave the rest to me. Go back to the village and rest for a while. Zhao Can hurriedly shook his head. Chief, no need to go back and rest. I'm fine. The situation is almost tense now. How could he abandon his fellow tribesmen and go back to rest alone? What if a fight really breaks out? One more person means one more fighting force. Zhaoan nodded slightly. Okay, I'll have someone help you, you just stand next to me. Zhao Can nodded. Then, Zhaoan turned his head. He looked at the head of the Chu family, Ji, and the head of the Xiahou family, Xiahou Xing. At the same time, Chu Ji and Xiahou Xing also looked at him. Although the three did not say a word. But the momentum of the people behind them became more and more high. The war was about to break out. It was like a gunpowder barrel full of gunpowder, and a spark could explode on the spot. In fact, Zhaoan, Chu Ji and Xiahou Xing had no intention of fighting in a muddle. But the problem is that they have been set up now. Whoever speaks first will be the first to surrender. When the fight starts later, the momentum will be weaker. But don't speak. If the stalemate continues, the two sides may really fight. Once the fight starts, the situation is not something they can easily control. Just as the three clan leaders were fighting each other. Tong Yuan, who was standing by, also saw the clues. He knew that if there was no third party involved, the two sides would have to fight before they could talk about things properly. So he decisively walked out of the Zhao family team. Clan leaders, what is it that has to make things so tense? Why don't you give me a favor and sit down and talk about it? Seeing someone give them a way out. Zhaoan, Chu Ji and Xia Huing were relieved. Chu Ji clasped his fists and stepped forward. Who is this old man? He had already seen that this old man was not a member of the Zhao family. But his identity was definitely not ordinary. Because the villagers of Zhejiazhuang present looked at the old man with obvious respect. Tong Yuan twisted his beard and said with a smile. My name is Tong Yuan. As soon as the words fell, there was a commotion in the Chu family and the Xiahou family. Chu Ji and Xiahou Xing also looked at each other, with deep shock in their eyes. Chu Ji took a deep breath and stepped forward and asked. Old man, are you the great gun god of the Han dynasty? The great gun god of the Han dynasty? It's just a false name. Although he said the false name, Tong Yuan showed a proud look on his face. The great gun god of the Han dynasty was not something he boasted about. It was something he shot one shot at a time. When he was young, he was a martial arts fanatic. After he mastered the spear technique, he traveled around the world, looking for martial arts masters from all over the world to learn from. Along the way, although he was not invincible, he rarely lost in his life. The Han dynasty ruled the country with martial arts. Not to mention the aristocratic families, even ordinary people were very enthusiastic about practicing martial arts. In such a society where martial arts flourished, everyone has always been very enthusiastic about martial arts masters. The Han dynasty's spear god? This is not just a false name, but also a symbol of top status. Chu Ji looked at Tong Yuan. There was not only respect in his eyes, but also a bit of admiration. When he was a child, he had heard the story of the Han dynasty's spear god countless times. He had also imagined that he could be like the spear god Tong Yuan. One man and one spear could defeat the entire Han dynasty. However, as he grew older, he found that his martial arts talent was very average. Although he was a little stronger than ordinary people. But compared with the Han dynasty's spear god, even if he had two hands, he probably couldn't beat him. Since Mr. Tong has spoken, let's each take a step back. Zhaoan nodded, then asked. I would like to ask the two clan leaders first, why do you bring the children of your clan to our Zhejiazhuang? Chu Ji and Xiahou Xing were stunned, and then retorted. You are still asking about us? Isn't it your Zhejiazhuang's good work? What did we do? Zhaoan was confused. Could it be that someone in the Zhao family offended the Chu family and the Xiahou family? But looking at the angry expressions on the faces of the children of the two families, this must be digging up their ancestral graves. Whose child is so fierce? Zhaoan suppressed his inner doubts and asked. What is it? If it is the fault of our Zhao family, I will never tolerate it. Chu Ji snorted coldly, pointed at the Hutuo River in the distance and said loudly. There is a severe drought in the world. Everyone depends on the flow of the Hutuo River to survive, but you cut off the flow of the Hutuo River without authorization. After the flow is cut off, how will the people downstream live? How will the crop survive? The Hutuo River belongs to everyone, not your Zhao family. May I ask you, is this your fault? Cut off the Hutuo River. We won't take the blame. Zhao Ani said righteously. We in Zhejiazhuang are upright and honest. We have never cut off the flow of the Hutuo River. As soon as the voice fell, the people of the Chu family and the Xiahou family all sneered. Chu Ji even scolded him. Don't you feel guilty for saying this? I ask you, is it true that you have many water wheels along the Hutuo River? Is it true that you have a huge flow of water to irrigate the crops, but there is only a trickle downstream? We are already here, are you still going to deceive us? Chu Ji's question was deafening. But Zhaoan really wanted to say it. It's unfair. We in Zhejiazhuang really didn't cut off the flow of the Hutuo River. The reason why you are a trickle. Because the flow of the Hutuo River is really limited. The water we use to irrigate the crops comes from the unlimited water source given by the gods. We didn't take a drop of water from the Hutuo River. But that's the problem. Unless they see it with their own eyes, it can't be explained clearly with words. even if they say the water is given by the gods. But who would believe it? What, your Zhao family is a relative of the gods? The gods don't give water to others, but give water to your Zhao family? It's not okay to fight them back by force. Because it's only temporary after all. There's no reason to be a thief for 1,000 days, so how can you guard against thieves for 1,000 days? And even if you fight back the Chu family and the Xiahou family, will they unite with other villages? The water shortage is not only in the Hutuo River area. In fact, Zhending County, Changshan County, Jizhou, and even the entire northern part of the Han Dynasty. Basically, they are all suffering from drought. The Zhao family can beat back the Chu family and the Xiahou family. Can they still be enemies with the entire Han Dynasty? Zhao took a deep breath. He knew that he had to confess. In fact, at a certain moment, he wanted to only say that there was unlimited water source and conceal the immortal. The later the immortal was known to everyone. The Zhao family could get more convenience from the immortal. This was his selfish desire as the head of the Zhao family. However, when he looked back at Zhejiazhuang, he gave up this idea. There is a god above your head. What's more, the immortal is still in Zhejiazhuang. If I lie, on the contrary, it will disappoint the gods, right? After a struggle between heaven and man, Zhao decided to tell the truth. First of all, we must state that at 580 o'clock, our Zhao family has never cut off the water of Hutuo River, not a drop, and secondly, the water we use now comes from the unlimited water source gifted by the gods. You are getting more and more outrageous. Gift from the gods? Unlimited water source? You said that when you dug a well, you hit groundwater, which is more credible than this. Suddenly, everyone in the Chu family and the Xiahou family showed an expression of, "Are you making fun of us?" Zhao had long anticipated their attitude. "I know you don't believe it, come with me, I will take you to see it now." As soon as these words came out, the children of the Chu family and the Xiahou family suddenly lost confidence. Hiss! This can't be true. Although the matter sounds a bit outrageous, the theory of ghosts and gods was very popular in the Eastern Han Dynasty. It's not that everyone doesn't believe in ghosts and gods. It's just that they subconsciously feel that the good things bestowed by ghosts and gods can't happen to them. But seeing Zhao so serious, they hesitated instead. A seed about the gift of ghosts and gods was quietly planted in their hearts, just waiting for the time to sprout. Zhao didn't explain a word. Just walked silently in the direction of the water wheel. The children of the Zhao family naturally followed him. Chu Ji and Xiahou Xing looked at each other. This can't be true. You ask me? I don't know either. I'll know when I go over and take a look. Chu Ji was bolder. I immediately waved his hand and said to the children, "Since the head of the Zhao family said so, let's go and take a look. I want to see whether this so-called gift from ghosts and gods is true or false." As soon as the voice fell, the Chu family members followed closely. Then the Xiahou family followed closely. More than 1,000 people from the three families marched through the farmland. Soon they came to the dozen or so human-powered pedal water wheels erected by Zhejiazhuang. It's strange to say, water wheels in other places are placed at intervals. The main purpose is to maximize the efficiency of one. But there are more than a dozen water wheels in Zhejiazhuang gathered together. Will so many water wheels not interfere with each other's work? However, what they don't know is, these water wheels are actually distributed in Zhejiazhuang according to the flow principle of infinite water blocks. After all, the infinite water blocks placed by uni water blocks must follow MC rules. The farthest distance they can flow is 7 meters. So if you want to use a water wheel to bring water within the infinite water block range into the ditch, the farthest distance you can put it is 7 meters. The two farthest water wheels are only 14 meters apart, one east and one west. The other water wheels are even closer. Doesn't it look like they are gathered together? Fortunately, Zhao Feng designed it very reasonably. Each water wheel corresponds to a ditch, and each ditch flows in one direction. So although these water wheels are gathered together, they do not affect each other's efficiency at all. Chapter 058. A Bolt from the Blue. Are there really gods? When the Chu family and the Xiahou family really approached the Hutuo River, they had already discovered a clue. Because there was no human pedaling, the water wheel had stopped working at this time. After stopping working, the ditch returned to its familiar dry and cracked appearance. Only the slightly moist soil on both sides of the ditch told everyone there was water flowing here not long ago. The most important thing is, except for the vicinity of the water wheel, whether it is the upper or lower reaches of the Hutuo River, only a trickle can be seen. It is exactly the same as the Hutuo River section in their Xinghua village. Could it be that there is really an unlimited water source given by the gods here? More than 600 children of the Chu family and the Xiahou family fell into silence. They didn't know, and they were not sure. The only thing missing was the last straw that broke the camel's back. Zhaoan walked to the water wheel, pointed to the back of the water wheel and said, "You can come and see, this is the infinite water source given by the gods that I told you about." Chu Ji took a deep breath and came to Zhaoan first. He stuck his head out and saw that on the dry and cracked land, there was a strange spring that looked a bit square and was flowing out continuously. The strange thing was that the water from this square spring stopped extending outward after flowing out about 2 or 3 feet. It seemed that there was an invisible wall blocking the flow of water. It was really magical. He made up his mind. He went straight through the gap in the water wheel and came to the infinite water source. He tried to touch the invisible wall that blocked the flow of water with his hand. However, he didn't touch anything. How could this be possible? It can't be seen or touched, but it can stop the water from flowing farther. This scene almost overturned his worldview. Could it really be related to the gods? Just when Chu Ji was in doubt, other children of the Chu family and the Xiahou family also came here through the water wheel one after another. After seeing the invisible air wall, they all exclaimed that it was incredible. They all stretched out their hands and touched around the air wall. But no one touched anything. Suddenly, the young Chu Yan passed through the air wall and plunged into the infinite water source. Under the obstruction of the water flow, he walked towards the infinite water block in the center with difficulty. Fortunately, the small pool of water formed by the infinite water block was not deep. The depth was less than 1 meter. There was no danger. So it didn't take long. Chu Yan came to the infinite water block in the center. "Yener, what are you doing?" Chu Ji scolded. But Chu Yan seemed to ignore it. Took a deep breath. Dive into the infinite water block. When he just went in, his skin clearly felt the surging water around him. But the magic was, after the body was completely immersed in it, it was extremely calm inside. Slowly opened his eyes. His eyes stung a little, but he finally saw the inside of the spring. It was clear and transparent. And there was no sign of groundwater gushing out. How could it be possible? Since it was not groundwater, where did the water gushing out of the spring come from? Chu Yan, who did not believe in evil, touched the ground where the infinite water block was. Touched left and right. It was still flat. Finally, Qing Yan could not hold his breath anymore. He suddenly stuck his head out of the water. After taking a few breaths, he said in an almost trembling voice, "This is not a spring, this is rootless water." The villagers of Zhejiazhuang present looked like they were used to it. But the children of the Chu family and the Xiahou family all showed a trace of confusion. Rootless water? What does this mean? They subconsciously looked at Zhaoan, who looked indifferent. Zhaoan had to step forward and explain. "I have already told you that this is an infinite water source. If it has roots and sources, how can it be called infinite? In fact, this water has no roots but no sources. People use great magic power to absorb it from the void." These words directly frightened the children of the Chu family and the Xiahou family. But Zhaoan really didn't think he was bluffing. At most, he added a little personal opinion. How else can it be explained? This water source is obviously rootless and sourceless, but it can gush out endlessly. Seeing is believing, hearing is false. With the blessing of witnessing it with their own eyes. Most of the families and the children of the Xiahou family have believed what Zhaoan said. Only a few still don't believe in it. They also followed Chu Yan and plunged into the infinite water block. Until they saw that the spring was indeed rootless and sourceless. But the water was flowing out continuously. They no longer doubted it. Instead, they believed it without a doubt. Even their eyes revealed a more determined look than others. These people actually have their own relatively stable worldview. They will not easily believe in things outside the worldview. But if there is something that can break their worldview and reorganize it, then they will not only believe in the new worldview without a doubt. Even the belief is far more firm than that of ordinary people. Not easy to shake. After learning the truth, Chu Ji looked a little lonely. If it was really the Hutuo River that was cut off by the Zhao family, then they could still stand on the moral high ground to take back the water of the Hutuo River. But now this water is a gift from the gods. Then they have no excuse to fight for it. The main reason is that they are afraid of being blamed by the gods after they rob. Instead, they cut off the unlimited water source. In the end, it is useless to rob. But the world has been suffering from drought for several years. Water shortage has become one of the major issues that Xinghua village needs to solve urgently. If there is no water, not only will the crops fail, but even the children of the family will have a hard time making ends meet. Although Chu Ji is ambitious, but he knows his responsibility as the head of the Chu family. Chu Ji made a decision in his heart and immediately knelt down in front of Zhaoan. Chief! 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 The children of the Chu family behind him saw this scene and shouted. They were about to step forward to help, but were stopped again. Don't come up. Then Chu Ji looked at Zhaoan and said, Chief Zhaoan, the main reason for this is me. I did not find out the reason and asked the ignorant children of the clan and the Xiahou family to come here. If you want to blame, please blame me personally. But before blaming, I still want to beg you as the head of the Chu family to give us some water. Without water, our family and the Xiahou family will be desperate. Since it is an unlimited water source. In theory, not to mention giving a little water, even giving an ocean is no problem. But it is only in theory. Because unlimited water is not without conditions. It is only unlimited when it is used. It is endless and never exhausted. But if no one uses it, then the water it produces will be forever limited to 1 acre and 3 points of land. This is why their Zhao family needs to build a water wheel to transport water. But facing the broad Hutuo River. It was Zhejiazhuang who worked day and night, pedaling the water wheels until smoke came out. The water transported probably didn't reach the Xinghua village section. It didn't work to add more water wheels to transport water. The area flowing out from the infinite water block as the center was only more than 100 square meters in total. Installing 15 water wheels had already filled every space. There was no room for more. Zhaoan sighed and had to tell the truth. You also saw this infinite water source. Although it is indeed endless and inexhaustible, it has conditions. Only when human beings take the initiative to move the water away can it continue to be generated continuously. Otherwise, the water will only be limited to this small area and will not be worth a penny. So we also want to give you water, but we really can't do it. Or, you can send someone to get the water, and we won't stop you. Chu Ji's face showed a trace of bitterness. Distant water cannot quench immediate thirst. Xinghua village is more than 10 miles away from Zhejiazhuang. It takes an hour to walk back and forth. Carrying water can only solve the problem of drinking water for the children of the clan. But the crops will still die. Without crops, there will be no surplus food, and even if you survive, it will only be a slow death. Chief Zhaoan, is there really no way? Zhaoan was silent for a while. In fact, there is another way. As soon as the voice fell, the eyes of the children of the Chu family and Xiahou family, including Chu Ji and others, all lit up. Chu Ji immediately asked, "What way?" Zhao An took a deep breath. "The immortal is now in our Zhejiazhuang. If you can ask the immortal to give your village an unlimited water source, there may be hope." If the existence of unlimited water sources shocked them, then this sentence is a real bolt from the blue. Immortals actually exist. And they are in Zhejiazhuang. The children of the Chu family and the Xiahou family could not help but tremble all over. Afraid? Yes. After all, who hasn't done something wrong in this life? Excited? Yes. This is an immortal. In the past, Qin Shi Huang sent several alchemists to search for immortals overseas, but they returned empty-handed. Emperor Wu of Han sent 4 delegations to the east or west. He even went as far as Kunlun. But they all ended in failure. Even the world's common leader may not be able to find immortals. They are just ordinary people, and they can see immortals in their lifetime. Chu Ji swallowed his saliva. It is outrageous enough that the Zhao family received unlimited water from the immortals. But this can still be called luck. The immortals still live in Zhejiazhuang. Were the Zhao family members all meritorious saints in their previous lives? The luck is simply against the sky. Pooh. What against the sky? The immortals are the sky. It was clearly just luck. Chu Ji no longer hesitated, and ran to Zhao An and kowtowed loudly. "Chief Zhao An, please introduce us, we just want to see the immortal." When he raised his head, his forehead had been broken by the ground. Blood dripped slowly down his cheek to the ground. Zhao An was shocked. Some people had said before that the head of the Chu family was a ruthless person. Now it seems that it is not an exaggeration at all. He waved his hand and said, "To tell you the truth, I can introduce you, but whether the immortal is willing to see you is his own business." Chu Ji said firmly, "As the head of the Chu family, I promise that no matter whether the immortal is willing or not. Opinion us, from now on, our Chu family will follow the Zhao family's lead, and whenever there is a need, just give an order, and the Chu family will never hesitate." As soon as the voice fell, Xiahou Xing on the side couldn't help it, and hurriedly stepped forward and knelt down and said, "Chief Zhao An, our Xiahou family also asks you to help introduce. But I am only the head of the Xiahou family branch, and I can't promise in the name of the Xiahou family. But I promise as the head of the branch, no matter whether the immortal is willing to see us, whenever the Zhao family needs it in the future, our Xiahou family branch will do our best to help even if we die." It is now the end of the Eastern Han dynasty. The loud oath of Luo Shui has not happened yet. The immortal Sima Yi has just passed his 3rd birthday. So now everyone still attaches great importance to promises. Hearing the oaths of the two, Zhao An was also happy. Good guy. The immortal hasn't agreed yet, and the Zhao family has gained 2 iron allies? Sure enough, as long as you serve the immortal well. Follow the will of heaven. The luck of heaven will naturally bless our Zhao family. Zhao An thought a lot. He also strengthened his determination to follow the immortal master. Then, he went up and helped the 2 of them up. "Please stand up quickly, I will go to ask the immortal master for you now." Chu Ji and Xiahou Xing bowed deeply. "Thank you, Patriarch Zhao An." Zhao An nodded, and then said to Zhao Feng on the side, "The visitor is a guest, Fenger, you take the children of the Chu family and the Xiahou family back to our Zhejiazhuang to rest, I will go to the immortal master now." "Yes." Zhao Feng nodded, and then said to the Chu family and the Xiahou family, "Everyone please follow me." Then, Zhao Feng led more than 600 people from the 2 families of Xinghua village to Zhejiazhuang. And Zhao An walked towards Yunyi's villa first. In the pavilion of the luxurious villa, Yunyi stared at the motionless fish float in the pond. The pond had changed. It was no longer clear but empty, but covered with water lilies as big as a palm leaf fan. Yunyi had been fishing all this time. But his luck seemed average. He caught a lot of water lilies. Water lilies were not very useful, at most they would add some nutrients to the compost bucket. King's good. So he simply put all the water lilies into the pond as decorations. At the same time, he also caught more than 30 fish of various kinds, 12 pufferfish, and 3 pairs of leather boots. Then he gave these 3 pairs of leather boots to Zhao Yun, Zhao Yu, and Zhao Yan respectively. Although Zhao Yun and Zhao Yan had been given a full set of iron armor by him when they were in Taihang Mountain before. But the Han Dynasty banned armor after all. It was somewhat inconvenient to run around in iron armor. So he simply gave them the leather boots he caught. After getting the leather boots, they were all very happy. He didn't dislike the junk he caught from the water. Of course. Junk is for Yun Yi. To them, leather boots are artifacts that have the effect of protecting the owner. In addition, he also caught 2 bowls, 6 bones, 4 ink sacks and a piece of leather. The only thing he was lucky about was that he caught 2 more enchantment books. Unfortunately, each one was more useless than the last. The first one had 2 enchantments, Undead Killer 5 and Arthropod Killer 3. At first glance, they were both effective enchantments for swords. But the problem was that he traveled through the real world, not the zombie world, Spider Universe or MC world. The largest arthropods in this world might be some crabs in the sea. Do you need to enchant them with the Arthropod Killer? Just grab them with a scoop net and eat them directly. Undead Killer is even more useless. Where were the undead in the late Eastern Han Dynasty? It's impossible for 2 armies to fight and suddenly a zombie Lu Bu appears in the enemy camp. That's 2F*** get up. Of course. It can't be said that they are completely useless. There may be no undead in the late Eastern Han Dynasty, but it doesn't mean there are none in the Nether. After getting obsidian, he can open the Nether portal. He can take the weapons with these 2 enchantments to the Nether to kill zombie piglins, wither skeletons, blazes, ghasts, magma monsters. Chapter 059 The Trident attracted thunder, a bolt from the blue. The effect of another enchantment book is even more useless than the previous one. The effects are, Experience Repair 1, Loyalty 3, Lightning 1. At first glance, there are 3 enchantment effects. And they are all very impressive. However, except for Experience Repair, the other 2 are used on the Trident. Indeed. In the game, after Loyalty 3 and Lightning 1 are enchanted on the Trident. The effect is very awesome. One is that when the Trident is thrown out, the Trident can automatically fly back. If there is not enough space in the backpack, the Trident will continue to hover around Steve until there is space in the backpack to store it in a positive position. The main feature is cool. The other is that when attacking creatures on thunderstorms, it can attract thunder to help you attack. In the game, you can also use the lightning effect. Create witches by attacking villagers or create lightning creepers by attacking creepers. In fact, these 2 effects are also very awesome in reality. But the key to all problems is where to get a trident. Even in the game, the trident cannot be synthesized using materials. You can only get it with a certain chance by killing a drowned corpse carrying a trident. But in the late Eastern Han Dynasty, where can he find a drowned corpse? Even if the Netherworld is opened, there are no drowned corpses in the Netherworld. Can he find a few living people to drown? However, people who drown in the real world will not become drowned corpses, but will only form giants. And even if drowned corpses are formed, unnaturally formed drowned corpses do not carry tridents. And if they do not carry tridents, they will not explode after being killed. It seems so. This seemingly awesome enchantment book is only useful for experience repair. Alas, what a pity. Yun Yi sighed. If you can get a trident, then add the enchantment of Loyalty 3. Throw the trident out during a fight. Then the trident will fly back like Thor's Mjolnir in the Marvel movie. I have to say, it's so cool. Not to mention the end of the Eastern Han Dynasty, even in modern times, it can overwhelm a large area. Add the lightning enchantment. You can directly cosplay Marvel Thor on the spot. If you can also get the torrent enchantment, that's even more amazing. You can even fly. The way of flying is the same as Thor in Marvel movies. Throw the trident out. and then hold the trident tightly, he can fly out with the trident. The only pity is, the torrent effect can only take effect in water or on rainy and snowy days. If there is no rain or snow halfway through the flight, it will also fall directly from the sky. But it's not a big problem, and the problem can be solved by using falling water. And is this a problem? Flying. One of the eternal dreams of mankind. Although he had taken a few planes before crossing. But can flying on a plane be the same as flying in the sky? Completely two concepts. Yun-Yi continued to stare at the float on the pond. Finally, after waiting for a long time, a series of bubbles gradually approached the fish float from the edge of the pond. When the bubbles were completely close, the fish float sank quickly. Right now, Yun-Yi quickly picked up the fishing rod. It came out of the water. Although he hadn't seen clearly what he had caught. But his previous fishing experience allowed him to make a judgment immediately. It's not a fish. It's not an enchanted item. I hope it's not garbage. Snap, the object caught fell heavily at his feet. Yun-Yi took a closer look. It was a long blue-green rod-shaped object. The rod had a slender body and a three-pronged head. Equals. Shit, trident. Yun-Yi's eyes widened, his face full of disbelief. No, I caught a trident while fishing. Normally. At least in the game, it is impossible to catch a trident while fishing. Then why did I get the trident this time? It should be some changes after the collision between the MC rules and the real rules. In just a moment, Yun-Yi found a suitable reason. But who cares? The thing of becoming Steve and traveling through time has happened. Could catching a trident while fishing be more outrageous than becoming Steve and traveling through time to the end of the Eastern Han Dynasty? And with a trident, the enchanted book I caught before can be used. For a moment, Yun-Yi's smile almost reached the sky. Even Zhao Yun and the other three who were watching from the side could see Yun-Yi's happiness. They all came forward. Master God, have you caught something good again? Yun-Yi nodded helplessly. Yes, after catching the enchanted book that was sealed with mana before, I caught a weapon that I used before, a very special one. I used it when playing games before, so I used it before. Very special? How special is it? Zhao Yun and others immediately showed a curious look. Just from the style. It is indeed very special. It looks a bit like a three-pointed two-edged sword, and a bit like a three-pronged fork. But these two weapons are actually not very easy to use. The three-pointed two-edged sword is slightly better. It can stab, pick, slap, chop, etc. Some people will use it more or less. But few people use the three-pronged fork. It is neither as flexible as a spear nor as powerful as a broadsword or a halberd. It is estimated that only people who are good at water battles will use it. But Yun-Yi does not need to consider practical issues. It's all about being handsome after all. Being strong is only temporary, but being handsome is lifelong. Because he had fished out an enchantment book before. So after enchanting the breastplate, he simply carried the anvil with him. Yun-Yi put the anvil down on the spot. Then he put the trident and the second enchantment book in at the same time. It took a little experience. The next moment, a trident emitting a stream of light and color came out. Trident, Experience Repair 1, Lightning Induction 1, Loyalty 3, what is a divine weapon? This is the real divine weapon. Picking up the trident, Yun-Yi looked at it carefully. The length is 1.5 meters. It's not long. But with the addition of real light and shadow, this trident is much more delicate and beautiful than the rough trident in the game. However, before he could test the effect of the enchanted trident, there was a knock at the door. Dong dong dong. After knocking for a while, Zhao An's voice came from the door. My Lord God, it's me, Zhao An. Seeing Zhao An's sudden visit, Yun-Yi guessed that something must have happened. Don't you know how to open the door? Just come in. Okay. Zhao An knocked on the door 3 times, said, Shao AI, open the door, and then walked into the villa. He saw Yun Yi and others sitting in the pavilion by the pond. He trotted forward. "My lord, the Chu family and Xiahou family of Xinghua village want to see you." The Chu family and Xiahou family of Xinghua village? Yun Yi recalled for a while in his mind. However, he did not find any trace of them in the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, or Records of the Three Kingdoms, that he had read before. "I have heard of the Xiahou family. For example, Xiahou Dun, Xiahou Yuan, etc. But that is the Xiahou family of Xiaohoing, the descendant of Shuzhou Pei County, Qiao County. The original family of Chao Zhe Boss. Not the Xiahou family of Xinghua village. But it is also normal. Whether it is Romance of the Three Kingdoms or Records of the Three Kingdoms, due to the limited length of the book, only some famous people or classic events are recorded. But there are billions of people in the world. Where are there so many famous people? Where are there so many classic events? So most people and things can only be lost in the clouds of time. I think the Chu family and Xiahou family in Xinghua village should be a small family nearby." Zhao An hurriedly stepped forward to explain. "This family and Xiahou family are the top families in Jianding County, and their scale is not inferior to our Zhejiazhuang. Among them, the Xiahou family is also a branch of the Xiahou family in Qiao County, Pei County, Shuzhou. This time they came to punish our Zhejiazhuang for cutting off the Hutuo River. But after seeing the infinite water source, they worshipped me and asked me to introduce them, wanting to get the glory of you, the immortal." Then he told what had just happened. Everything was in great detail. Even the final promise of the two families was told truthfully. Yun Yi glanced at Zhao An, who was almost flattering. Of course he knew he was flattering. He also knew that good medicine tastes bitter but is good for the disease, and honest words are unpleasant to the ears but are good for action. But who doesn't like to hear nice words? And judging from some recent events, Zhao An is still pretty good. Although he has selfish motives. But as long as it involves him, he will stand on his side without hesitation and think for him. He can't read minds or read his heart. He can only be regarded as an ordinary person with divine, powers. So in terms of employing people, loyalty must be considered first. "Okay, I know everything, you did a good job. So, you let them all come to my villa, my yard is big enough, although there are many of them, they can still stand." Yun Yi praised generously. After hearing Yun Yi's praise, Zhao An's face flushed. "He, the gods praised me." The excitement was beyond words. "Okay, gods, I will call them all over now." After that, Zhao An hurriedly left the villa. Looking at Zhao An's back as he left, Yin Yi was thoughtful. Although his strategy focuses on building high walls, storing food, and slowly claiming to be a god. But this does not mean that he will work behind closed doors. Let it be open naturally. Slowly expand the influence. Use your unique ability to make more friends and fewer enemies. Then you will have the opportunity to overthrow the Han regime and even the foundation of the entire feudal society. If you ignore the laws of history, directly learn from the later generations to carry out reforms. Even with his status as a god, there are countless followers. But the result will still be the same as Wang Mang usurping the Han dynasty, making the world a mess. In this world, human hearts and human nature are the most complicated. Yun Yi sighed in his heart. But he felt that he should not follow Wang Mang's old path. After all, he has the MC rules. He is invincible. Unless Lu Xiu, a great magician and son of destiny, appears again. Ahem. Don't set such flags randomly. Shaking off some messy ideas in his head, he plans to continue testing the enchanted trident he just got. He flipped his hand and grabbed the trident in his hand. Then he threw it forward with force. The next moment, the trident was like an arrow that flew out dozens of meters. With a bang, the trident was inserted into the granite wall outside the villa. A small hole was made. Afterwards, a faint rumbling sound came from the sky. Zhao Yun and others shook their heads. They thought they had heard it wrong. But Yun-Yi raised his head, looking at the clear sky. Fiflux. Can the lightning-inducing effect only summon thunder on rainy days? He sighed lightly, feeling a little sorry. If thunder could be summoned on sunny days, the practicality of the trident would definitely increase a lot. After the trident was inserted into the granite wall, it did not stand still on it. Instead, it vibrated violently. It seemed that there was a force that was forcibly pulling the trident out of the granite. The next moment, this force reached the critical point that the granite could withstand. There was only a whoosh sound. The trident instantly returned to Yun-Yi from the granite wall dozens of meters away. Yun-Yi grabbed it. How is it? How about my trident? Seeing this scene, Zhao Yun and others suddenly widened their eyes and exclaimed incredible. My God, it can actually come back? Yun-Yi nodded. Not only can it come back, it can also trigger thunder. As soon as the voice fell, Zhao Yun and others' eyes widened even more. Trigger thunder? So, the thunder we just heard was real? They immediately swallowed their saliva. Too terrible. Yun-Yi shook his head. He can indeed trigger thunder, but unfortunately there is a prerequisite. That is, it must be a thunderstorm. But the problem is that the Han dynasty has been suffering from drought for many years. Thunderstorm? He is not sure when he will encounter it. At this time, the gate of the villa was knocked again. Zhao An's voice came again. My lord, I'm here with the Chu family and the Xiahou family. Yun-Yi said casually. Come in directly. Zhao An immediately said the password, and then led more than 600 people from the two families of Xinghua village to enter Yun-Yi's villa yard. But so many people came at once. It would take too long for them to all come in. So Yun-Yi simply prepared to test the effect of the trident again. Of course, there was also a little idea of establishing a prestige. After all, these were a group of troublemakers. Not long ago, without knowing the situation clearly, he dared to come to Zhejiazhuang with weapons to accuse him. He was not sure what the attitude of this group of people was. So he simply shocked them first. Then he clenched the trident. Hold it high. But this time he did not throw it directly, but held it in his hand to accumulate power. Yes, just like in the game. The trident can be charged, and the function of charging is to be able to throw it farther. During the charging process, the faint sound of thunder came from the sky again. From far to near. But the strange thing is that there are no clouds in the sky. No one knows where the thunder comes from. Finally, Yun-Yi felt that the power accumulated by the trident had reached its peak. At this time, he was like holding a ball of compressed and compacted explosives. It seemed that as long as he threw it out, it would produce a violent explosion. The next moment, Yun-Yi threw it hard. The trident flew straight towards the granite wall in front. The speed was extremely fast. It was invisible to the naked eye. I have seen the afterimage. However, at the moment when the trident collided with the granite wall, crack! Everyone saw a flash of lightning. It hit the granite wall where the trident landed. It was very powerful. It directly blew a huge gap in the 3-meter-high granite wall. Even the people from the Chu family and the Xiahou family who were standing far away, they felt numbness in their bodies. My God! It's so scary. Inducing thunder. Is this the thunder fairy from heaven? This scene. It is much more shocking than the infinite water source before. Suddenly, someone from the two families was frightened and fell to the ground. This action was like a plague, instantly infecting all the standing people from the two families. They all had weak legs. Kneeling on the ground, lowering their heads, they didn't even have the courage to look at Yun-Yi. Even Zhao Yun, Zhao An and other people who have long been accustomed to all kinds of shocks. They were stunned in place. Without saying a word. Chapter 060 Scheming Dog. Encountered a robber on the road? Looking at this powerful thunderstrike, Yun-Yi was slightly surprised. Hiss. Granite can be broken by one strike. This power is much stronger than the high-explosive grenades of later generations. The key is that it is also cool. Throwing a high-explosive grenade out to blast and throwing a trident out to attract lightning to blast are simply incomparable. But he never expected it. The charging in the game can only increase the attack range of the trident. But after coming to reality, charging to the extreme can actually break the premise that the lightning enchantment requires thunderstorms. Attracting lightning on a sunny day. Not useless at all. The enchanted trident has now become a real artifact. In the future, no one should object to him calling himself the god of thunder. However, the scientific principle of thunder on a rainy day is that two clouds with positive and negative charges come into contact, forming a charge difference between the two, which breaks through the air to form thunder. But how to explain the thunderbolt from the blue sky with science? Yun-Yi scratched his head. It should be related to the MC rules. From the fact that he has come into contact with so many MC creations since he traveled through time, he can basically be sure of one thing. That is, the priority of MC rules is higher than that of reality rules. If the two conflict, the MC rules will be triggered first. And there is another advantage to charging to the extreme to attract lightning. For example, although he wants to use the trident to attack, but does not want to kill people, he cannot charge to the extreme. Release it directly. Although the power is a little weaker, it is safer. Otherwise, as long as the trident is thrown out, it will trigger the lightning. It is inevitable to hurt others by mistake. Then even if the trident is handsome and powerful, he can only put it in the east. Of course, there is also a disadvantage of attracting lightning attacks. The skill pre-swing is too long. It takes about 5 seconds to charge to the extreme. In a life and death duel, 5 seconds can already determine life or death. But he doesn't think anyone in the late Eastern Han Dynasty can drag him to a life and death duel. Not even Lu Bu. Even if a large army of Lu Bu surrounded and beat him, he would not be afraid. So he was already very satisfied. 5 seconds of charging to the extreme can draw thunder, which is equivalent to a 5-second ultimate move in a game. The damage is also very high. If this is placed in a MOBA game, it is definitely a must-have, and people are shouting for a nerf every day. At this time, the people of the Chu family and the Xiahou family knelt on the ground. They really dared not move. After all, in the eyes of people in the late Eastern Han Dynasty, thunder is the most masculine thing, and only the priests in charge of thunder and lightning in the sky have the ability to release it. Since Yun-Yi can draw thunder at will, that means he is very likely a god in charge of thunder and justice in the sky. Zhaoan on the side also swallowed his saliva. Fortunately, he has never deceived the gods. Otherwise, if this thunder hits me, you and I will have a chopstick? After waiting for a while, seeing the movement gradually disappear, the people kneeling on the ground gradually regained some courage. They secretly raised their heads. At this time, the trident that was originally stuck in the ground by the thunder and lightning in the granite wall suddenly began to make a buzzing sound. Buzz. The trident body trembled violently. The next moment, there was a whoosh sound, and the colorful enchanted trident was automatically pulled out of the soil. After stagnating in the air for a few breaths, it quickly returned to Yun-Yi's side. However, this time Yun-Yi did not open his hand to grab the trident. Instead, he quickly scattered a group of blocks to fill the backpack space. Because the backpack space was full, not only could the trident not fly into his hand, it could not automatically enter the backpack. So it could only hover around Yun-Yi. But this is the effect Yun-Yi wanted. Why are you kneeling all the time? I don't like others kneeling, stand up. As soon as the voice fell, the kneeling Chu and Xiahou families dared not disobey, and all supported each other to stand up. However, although they stood up, their legs still trembled. I don't know whether it was excitement or fear. At this time, Chu Ji mustered up his courage and walked out of the crowd. Then he knelt down in front of Yun-Yi with a plop. Master God, please give us some water in Xinghua village. I am willing to be your servant for life and serve you. As soon as the voice fell, Zhaoan on the side suddenly widened his eyes. It's not you, you have thick eyebrows and big eyes, how can you be so scheming? Didn't we agree before that when we see the gods, we only ask for water? Why do you still want to serve the gods? What a beautiful thought. I didn't even dare to think so. It's just that Yun Yi is still here, otherwise he must point at Chu Ji's nose and call him a scheming dog. Yun Yi glanced at Chu Ji. From Zhao An's previous description and introduction, he found that although Du Ji had not been recorded in history books, but he was indeed a talent. As for why there was no record, maybe he died unexpectedly before he had time to show his ability. Life. No one knows which will come first, tomorrow or an accident. Just like himself. I thought I would continue my 996 life after waking up. But when I opened my eyes, I inexplicably traveled to the turbulent late Eastern Han dynasty. But being capable is one thing. Serving him is another. Chu Ji is ambitious and has a deep mind. It's fine to use him normally, and maybe he can give him a lot of surprises. But forget about keeping him around as a confidant. Or Zhao Yun, a straightforward boy, is more suitable for me. Yun Yi coughed lightly. It's okay to ask for water, but forget about serving me. Hearing this, Chu Ji felt lost. But it was also within his expectations. The one in front of him is the god who controls thunder. How could a mortal like him who had just met once be qualified to serve? But looking at Zhao Yun and others standing next to Yun Yi, he felt a glimmer of hope in his heart. He encouraged himself secretly. In the future, I must take action to prove my worth to the immortal. Thank you for your kindness, immortal. Chu Ji kowtowed heavily on the ground. The scab mark that had kowtowed to Zhaoan just now broke again. The blood slowly slid down his cheek to the ground. Yun Yi shook his head helplessly. Don't kneel and kowtow all the time in the future. Then he turned to Zhaoan and said, teach them the salute when you have time. The reason why Zhaoan was asked to teach was to give him a chance to establish his authority in front of the people in Xinghua village. After all, at present, the Zhao family is his base. And he likes Zhao An's way of dealing with people. He will try his best to help them. Zhaoan instantly understood what Yun Yi meant and was delighted. Yes, Lord God, I will teach them clearly. Then, Yun Yi took a look at the granite wall that he had blasted a gap in. He took out an iron pick from his backpack. He knocked off the broken part and took out a new granite wall to replace it. The people in Zhejiazhuang were already accustomed to this scene. They were not surprised. But the young and strong people from the Chu family and the Xiahou family all widened their eyes. Their faces were full of disbelief. Creating something out of nothing? Creating something out of nothing? Mustard seed contained sumeru? Although they didn't understand the principle, they were stunned. The eyes they looked at Yun Yi became more respectful and pious. After cleaning up the mess, Yun Yi said to the people in Xinghua village, let's go, I'll go over and help you put an infinite water source. The people of the Chu family and the Xiahou family nodded hurriedly. However, they had just taken 2 steps forward. Before they even left the villa gate, many people sat down on the ground with weak legs. Patriarch, we seem to have weak legs. Patriarch, I feel like my legs have no strength at all. We are the same, we can't even use the key strength. This is not an isolated case, but more than half of them have such a situation. In fact, they were frightened by the trident summoning thunder attack before. At that time, adrenaline surged, so they didn't feel anything. But once they relaxed, their legs were so weak that they couldn't even move. Yun Yi shook his head helplessly. Of course, taking out milk should solve the problem of their collective weak legs. But there are so many people. How long will it take to drink? Seeing this, Chu Ji hurriedly stepped forward and asked, how many people in the Chu family can walk back by themselves now? Please raise your hands. Xiahou Xing also asked, how many people in the Xiahou family can walk back by themselves now? Raise your hands too. However, after looking around, few people raised their hands. The two looked at each other. But they couldn't waste the time of the immortal master. So Chu Ji cast his eyes on Zhao on the side. "Chief Zhao, I want to trouble you with one more thing." Zhao sighed. He had already guessed what it was. But after all, the immortal master agreed, so he would work hard. "Chief Chu Ji, do you plan to take those who can walk and go with the immortal master first?" Chu Ji nodded. "Yes, those of us who can walk back by ourselves will go back with the immortal master first. For those who can't walk back now, please take care of them, Chief Zhao. Our Chu family still has some books left by our ancestors. If the Zhao family doesn't mind, you can take them to copy." Hearing this, Zhao An's eyes lit up immediately. If it was gold, silver, and jewelry. In fact, he didn't care. In a famine year, gold, silver, and jewelry might not be worth the same weight of grain. But books are different. Books have their own beauty and golden houses. Books are not like gold, silver, and jewelry, which are gone after they are spent. Instead, they can be copied and studied infinitely. It can be said that every book can be used as a family inheritance in the future. Especially in this era, the major aristocratic families monopolize knowledge and discourse power. Ordinary people have very few opportunities to learn knowledge. This makes books even more precious. Fiflux. The more books, the better. The more the better. Zhao immediately patted his chest and guaranteed. "Patriarch Chu Ji, you can go back without worry, we will definitely take good care of the Chu family." Xiahou Xing saw this. He also hurriedly promised to help take care of the clan members and take the clan books to copy. Xinghua Village Xiahou family is a branch of Qiao County Xiahou family. The books are no less than those of Chu family. Hearing this promise, Zhao An's mouth was already grinning to the sky. It's great to be with the immortal. How could these families take out their treasured books for others to copy? Afterwards, Chu Ji and Xiahou Lan picked out all the people from their families who could still walk back from more than 600 people. There were very few people. Only more than 20 people from the two families could walk back. Looking at the remaining hundreds of weak-legged clan members, Chu Ji and Xiahou Lan rolled their eyes wildly. The clan members are not doing well. But it can't be blamed entirely on them. Anyone who sees the immortal who can summon thunder will be as excited as they are. In fact, they are also equally excited. The ability to walk back alone is all thanks to the strong ability to bear. "Mr. Immortal, we are fine." Yuni nodded. "Okay, let's go. You lead the way, and I'll follow." Yuni originally planned to go to Xinghua Village alone this time. But after thinking about it, he decided to take Zhao Yun, Zhao Yu, and Zhao Yan with him. After all, he was unfamiliar with the place. Bringing some familiar people with him would not make him bored along the way. Xinghua Village and Zhejiazhuang are more than 10 miles apart, and can be reached by going east along the Hutuo River. There are few big roads and many small roads along the way. And they are basically muddy roads. Fortunately, it has been dry for several years. Oh. These muddy roads are now compacted to the point where you have to knock them with a hoe for a while. There are not many weeds. Basically, as soon as they grow out, they are eaten by passers-by. Although the taste is a bit worse. But in the years of famine, it is good to have something to eat, so who would have the mind to consider the taste? Just as everyone was walking east along the path, suddenly, a burly man jumped out from behind a small earthen slope, blocking the way forward. The burly man had a black face and a mask. He was 9 feet tall, with bulging muscles, which almost made his wide robe burst. He held a short iron halberd in each hand, and more than 10-inch long halberds were attached to his waist. He was really fierce. "I opened this road and planted this tree. If you want to pass through here, leave some food." The burly man shouted, and his voice was as loud as the roar of a lion or tiger. Seeing this scene, Yun-Yi was stunned. "Good guy, did you not check the almanac before going out today?" He encountered robbers as soon as he went out. He robbed more than 20 people by himself. Isn't it a bit arrogant? The people of the Chu family and the Xiahou family were all stunned. Not brothers. Are you so fierce? You stopped more than 20 people from robbing by yourself? There was also a god among them. Seeing this, Chu Ji felt that his chance to show off had come. He hurriedly ran to Yuni respectfully. My lord god, how about I take care of this man? Yuni nodded. After receiving the promise, Qing Ji immediately jumped forward. You fool, there are no trees here, how can you plant trees? There used to be a few trees planted on this road. It's a pity that the trees didn't have time to grow up. The drought came. It didn't take long for all these trees to die. After hearing this, the burly man was also stunned. He just said this sentence casually. I have never thought about it so much. But when I turned my head and looked around, it seemed that there were indeed no trees around. The big man scratched his head and immediately changed his words. I didn't plant this tree, but I opened this road. If you want to pass through here, you must leave some food. Chu Ji laughed again and said sarcastically. You are really a fool. This road has a history of decades. Have you been here to open the road since you were born? No, buddy. I said I kill people without blinking an eye, and you asked me if my eyes are not king? I am a robber. Robbery. Respect my profession, okay? Being ridiculed by Chu Ji, the burly man was instantly anxious. No matter what, if you want to pass through today, you must leave some food. After saying that, the burly man touched his hungry stomach. If he didn't eat, he would really starve to death on this road. Chu Ji asked again. There are more than 20 of us here. Do you still insist on stopping us? The burly man showed a broken jar look. More than 20 people? Even if more than 200 people came today, we wouldn't let them. Chu Ji clapped his hands. Okay, then don't blame us for not showing mercy. Chu Yan, are you confident that you can deal with that fool in front? Chu Yan knew. This was the opportunity that his father had fought for him to show off in front of the gods, so he patted his chest and said. Father, leave it to me. You are listening to it in Eugene light novels.